Hello, everyone. Welcome to the PIPCAST 3000, episode 96. I am Caedo Genesis. This is a Fallout gaming news podcast thing where we talk about those things and usually have a dedicated topic revolving around Bethesda, Fallout, open world stuff. But I am joined by my co-host, BADCOMPANYSARGE.
Hello there.
And our special guest returning after many months, William STRIFE.
Hello, my name is William STRIFE, and I have been known to make very many game guides over Bethesda games, such as Oblivion, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Skyrim.
Yes, what a lovely introduction. And William, if I can gush a little bit, William STRIFE has also been an inspiration to my channel because he started much earlier than I did.
Oh my god, I'm going way back there. It's just, I have a freaking YouTube channel older than some of my viewers these days, but
I remember back when I was a kid and watched your videos. Yeah.
Oh my god, the number of people that come through on like the really old stuff and are like, oh my god, I remember watching this when I was 6. Oh no, don't make me feel older.
It's only a matter of time, Sarge. You're gonna get those very soon. But we have well, we already plugged your content and stuff. Links are down in the description if you're interested in checking out William STRIFE stuff. Very After Effects-y, fireworksy kind of stuff in your New Vegas content and stuff.
All of the whole reason I got into guides was because I wanted to like create motion graphics and you know, visual effects, and ultimately I realized that nobody would watch that if I didn't have good content around it, and I was like, whatever. Video games, I understand those. So,
Yep. That's a good combination, and it's when intros were more acceptable and more work was put in them.
Oh my god, yeah. The number of people that come around these days and are like, what's up with this stupid intro? And I'm like, you could look at the published date of the video, but I'm not even going to bother.
Why wasn't I instantly given all the information I wanted for in the first 5 seconds? Come on.
I mean, do you want me to start ranting about any number of different guides that I've made over the...
Yeah, it's when we could comfortably do like a full 1-minute intro and be fine.
I think one of my most egregious ones, I still get people coming in saying, I wanted to watch it, but you have so much ego with that intro. And I was just like, wow, that is like that I don't think I've ever been hit that way before. Like that's punch rude. I haven't received in that. Like, times change.
If you have a time to exercise your artistry when it comes to, you know, creating an intro sequence, like you got to do it. You got to do it.
Not according to the almighty algorithm.
But you got to do it different ways now because of, you know, intros being less acceptable, and a lot of them being just what's the word? Fiverr garbage. That's not the right word.
They're gratuitous.
They're gratuitous. The dubstep, the big 3D exploding texts.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
I mean, a lot. I get it. I really do, because if I ever go and look for a guide myself on anything, it's like, oh man, this is a terrible logo that I don't want to watch. I just showed up to get information, and like I have long since come to understand. It's like, yeah, flash a couple things up on screen, and then get to the point. So
yep. I made the move just to take them out entirely, and I just start. Like I introduce myself, I show my avatar, and that's all that's really needed.
Start talking, get to the point, and like if it's really important, have the titles on the screen when you're doing it. So
yep. Anyway, already getting off track, which I love so very much when we have you on, Will. We have something that I mentioned when Jared was on, and neither of you were. Last episode, I set up a new merch item on my Spring store that I hadn't updated for like 2 years. Since Immersion has been an ongoing joke on this podcast for like since like the 32nd episode, we now have the Immersion series, which is hoodies and a sticker. So if you want a hoodie and you want to put a sticker on it that says the same thing, hey, check out the Immersion merch, where you can get something that says PIPCAST 3000 brought to you by Immersion.
Immersion?
Because that's a word we will never
on
forget.
A hoodie, I hate to break it to you, but things are still way too warm in most of the United States right now.
It'll cool down.
The
That's
idea
fine.
of a hoodie is breaking my immersion right now.
It's preemptive preparation for frozen hellscape. So
It's also too warm in the UK. Last night, I went for a late night walk in the rain, and I was in like just trousers, t-shirt, and I was sweating.
Oh, jeez. I mean, I'm just waiting for a potential like 180 because
Yep.
I am so far south in the United States that like the concept of snow is kind of foreign, and it's like, hey, we got snow for 3 days and that's it, type of thing. And like for the last 2 years in February, which is way outside of when we could ever expect snow, we have gotten blizzards because the polar vortex has destabilized, you know?
yay.
So it's like, oh, wow, if I don't run the heat, my pipes might burst. You know?
So fun. So fun.
It's just-
So, you know, listeners, if you're interested in bundling up with a sweatshirt because of all those things we just said, yeah, you can check them out in the store. There might be a shelf. YouTube is somehow choosy on which videos has the merch shelf. I don't know how it works entirely. I just hit the checkbox. So check out the merch. We have official stuff for PIPCAST stuff now.
Go on. Go on. You know what? Click the link. Click
Yeah.
it.
You know you want to.
Caedo doesn't do this for free.
I
Go buy
don't.
some.
I mean,
has bills to
here's
pay.
the thing too. The entire podcast is actually like, I turn monetization off on this because the auto breaks that it chooses are awful.
Oh my God.
And there's like a bazillion of them. So like this actually doesn't make any monetization money. Like I just rely on patrons.
Well, now you
other stuff,
You have
so-
to buy a
now you have
hoodie,
to.
even if
Now you have
don't
to get my
use it.
merch.
Okay. Anyways,
Yes, let's move on to the comment of the cast. This is where we grab a comment. Oh wait, no, you gotta do a word. Do you have a word, Will?
I have a word.
A word of the day.
your word is green.
Green.
Green. Fallout Green. Because
Fallout Green.
we'll get to that eventually. But Fallout Green.
Oh, topical. Good choice.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, and then the comment of the cast. Sarge, would you pick from our lovely 2 options of commenters from last episode that you weren't in? So
No.
you're gonna be confused.
No, it's fine. I'm just going to go for the controversial topic, because...
Okay, cool.
Oh God, I know exactly which one you're going for. Oh jeez.
So, Cristobal Mardones says, well, about New Vegas, unpopular opinion ahead. I always felt it like a mod of Fallout 3, like Fallout 3, open bracket 2, close bracket. It's always called the best one of the franchise, but it just feels like Fallout 3 heavily modded. There's no thing like the best Fallout. All Fallouts are great, open bracket except 76, close bracket.
Oh boy.
I like how this one both dunks on New Vegas and 76, so it's getting
Yeah.
like both extremes of the fan base.
Yep.
That's going like, oh geez, talk about trying to like draw a target on your own back. It's just like, hey, I'm going to say bad things about the entry that everybody hates and the entry that everybody loves, all at once. Come on, where's my resounding chorus of hate?
Cristobal, I think Cristobal would actually be good in writing articles for the Gamer, in fact,
Oh, God.
or at least headlines for their articles, because that, yeah, like once you know like any of the hot topics that are in the Fallout community, it's pretty easy to get responses.
God.
if you say the proper thing.
Say
Like
something
the-
controversial just to get the clicks.
Yeah, no,
how
and
it
it's annoyingly easy, in fact.
Oh my.
But yeah, I think this is an interesting take.
Okay, so I'm gonna like, not to cut you off, Sarge, but I'm gonna take the opportunity to cut you off, and instead, I'm gonna combo this in with the whole news information about the Fallout retrospective stuff. Okay?
Okay.
Because I took the time to watch all of these Fallout retrospectives because I was like, oh, this is probably going to take me a while. It's probably like, I don't know, 15-minute video every single time. No, every single video of the retrospective is like 3 minutes long. And I'm like, okay, cool, that's kind of short. So I watched through all of these official things from Bethesda, and there is something very conspicuous as they continue to talk about Fallout. They just kind of ignore New Vegas.
Oh, I've done this before. I'm going to do it again with another guest. I'm doing a little dance.
It's just like, yeah, so we were really worried about picking up the game and, like, having to, like, recreate it in 3D and making Fallout 3, and then we, all the challenges of, like, moving it into Fallout 4, and we knew that the bar was set high because of Fallout 3, and, we had all of these cosplayers out in the audience when we announced it, and I was like, they showed a shot of a desert ranger. They're not cosplaying because of Fallout 3. Fallout New Vegas is, dude. Like,
I have two things to say. First up, I often hear that Bethesda never acknowledges New Vegas and stuff, and they do, but they don't do it like as often as like Fallout 3, 4, 76, because point two, they didn't make New Vegas. If they started like just being like, and then New Vegas came along and started talking about it in the same way as they can talk about 3 and 4, then people would get annoyed at that as well, because it's like they didn't make it and it would seem like they're kind of taking credit. Like, they'll sometimes bring up New Vegas, but I feel like it's been fairly open knowledge that Bethesda just gave the tools away for a bit. So I feel like there's not really much they can say on a first-hand basis. They'd just be saying it as like, oh yeah, that's a cool game in the franchise we own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. I entirely agree with that. It was just a little bit conspicuous for them to not even make a mention or acknowledge that it was a thing that happened. And it was definitely helpful to the franchise.
Yeah.
I like the questioning in that delivery.
I mean, I don't... Does Bethesda acknowledge... Here's the thing. You get games in franchises where it's like, oh, we don't talk about that game. It's like the Philips CDI Zelda games, if you know what the hell those are. It's like,
yes,
nobody talks about them unless you're really going out of your way to talk about them. Nintendo basically just refuses to acknowledge their existence and everything.
I do think there has actually been, I'm scrolling through Twitter now to find it, there is actually a real obvious one. Here we go, it's the Fallout tweet from @Fallout. Did you know, out of all the characters throughout the Fallout series, Harold is the one with the most appearances. We meet him in the first Fallout, but he also plays a prominent role in Fallout 2 and Fallout 3. They do not bring up the game, which is the actual worst, or not even most hated, but they don't bring up like Brotherhood of Steel ways
they
in
don't.
as well, because that one I feel like is more of an obvious, like, because they talk about having the most appearances and name almost all the games he's in.
Yeah, and I've heard in recent, I think it was me hearing Todd Howard just say New Vegas, and I was almost taken aback because I was like, oh my god, he doesn't talk about New Vegas. But I can't remember like if it was one of these retrospective or if it was something else, because I've been kind of like in and out of the Fallout discussion crap over the week. But like, of course he and all like Interplay Legacy employees like won't talk about Brotherhood of Steel or really Fallout Tactics, because like they're both those like off to the side, like Brotherhood of Steel more so just like that thing that was made that nobody wants to acknowledge, whereas Tactics was done by Micro Forte, which I don't know any of the developers by name, I don't think, so that might say something too. But they're also like non-canon games, so
yeah. I mean, didn't one of them like replace all of the Nuka-Cola for like an energy drink or something?
That was Brotherhood of Steel. Yeah,
Brotherhood of Steel,
that one replaced Nuka-Cola with Balls energy drink.
Yes, Balls energy drink.
Delicious balls.
I remember jokes about balls. But I don't know. It's just it's so weird to hear no mention of Fallout New Vegas in a retrospective type of thing. I mean, like you said, what is Bethesda gonna do? Like they're the ones who are in control of the franchise. They're the ones who are actually making new entries in it and developing the game. But they gave away the controls for a very short period of time, and the community at large kind of is like, hey, yeah, the first game that came out that you let somebody else make of the franchise after you got a hold of it was like pinnacle Fallout. and they just like I was saying about the Zelda games, it's like we don't talk about those games. Bethesda's almost the same way with Fallout New Vegas, but they're in the exact reverse. It's like, oh, that's too good, we can't talk about that, and we didn't make it. So I don't know if that's actually what's going on. To some degree, it kind of feels that way.
It could be that, but it could be like they've wanted to make the franchise their own for such a long time, and in that respect, New Vegas may have been a mistake because
Yeah.
I wonder a lot about that. Like, New Vegas, great game, but I'm not sure it's great for the community at large, as in just the community discourse kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a really good game, but a lot of online discussion can get derailed, and other entries in the franchise, like, regardless of if people think they're good or bad, can sometimes be like, but it's not New Vegas, so let's speak negatively about this thing that I still actually like.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I think one of the most bizarre things that I ever saw was someone who had never played Fallout New Vegas. They had their first game into the franchise was Fallout 4, okay? Which is, it's fine, whatever. If that's your first game, that's your first game. And then they were so fanatical about Fallout 4 because they loved it so much, but so they go into the community and they start trying to talk about stuff, and all they see is New Vegas is the best one, man. Just that's just what the community consistently says. So this person gets so angry that they get on their blog or their Twitter or whatever it was, and they make this big long declaration that, you know, everybody needs to shut up about New Vegas because they're just being New Vegas stans. That phrase specifically, you're just being New Vegas stans.
I can agree with that to an extent.
I mean, but what made this particularly funny was that it was coming from someone who had never played it, so they couldn't like have an even perspective on it in any capacity. It was just very entertaining for me to see. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah. I think it's worth considering that level of fervor, that's a fun word, for New Vegas, can end up turning new fans away too.
Oh yes, absolutely. And to
which is what it sounds like happened in your example.
to the credit of Cristobal, like Fallout New Vegas basically is like Fallout 3 version 1.5 or whatever, you know, 2.0, however you want to phrase it. It really does play like a really big mod. And as I recall, whenever the game came out, like they had kill cam, you know, in like first person perspective and everything. They had a kill cam added to the game, and that was a mod for Fallout 3 too. So like there was no shortage of stuff that was like, no, this is just ideas that were mods that were implemented into the game. And it's like, yeah, to a certain degree, that's exactly how the game plays, but at the same time, it's so much more than that.
Yeah. It also would be worse if developers went, oh, well, someone made a mod for this, so we're not going to include it in the next entry.
Oh,
this thing which people clearly love, let's disregard it because someone else did it as well.
Yeah, it's like, I remember when Fallout 4 came out, there were people complaining about the fact that they turned action points into your sprint meter, which was evidently a mod. It was never a mod that I used for 3 or New Vegas, but evidently it existed prior. So
yeah,
and I was
because
like,
it works really well.
Yeah, it does work really well. It's like, okay, if you never use VATS, then, you know, AP suddenly has a purpose again. So, which
I mean, just being able to sprint in a Fallout game is also lovely.
It is. It is. I mean, I was so weirded out by the ability to sprint in Skyrim whenever it came out. I was like, okay, I'll do it, but this is kind of weird.
You can, but you can't jump at the same time. That's too much.
Oh, well, I mean, don't worry. You can still Bethesda your way up a mountain. So
yes, yeah, you can. That's true. But
my god,
the running and jumping didn't come till later in Fallout 4, I think.
I mean, I can only fathom what Starfield is going to feel like, you know, going forward, because I can't fathom that they've changed. I'm pretty certain they're probably using the same game engine, and that engine has gone through so much change because of what they had to do with it.
It's the next generation creation engine too.
Okay. So like, do you have any idea if like some of the modifications that they did for 76 are carried over? That's
actually something I've been curious about too. Like if that has had an influence on it, or if they just like took what they had from Fallout 4 and like worked on that, and 76 got their own like engine to work with, and they're kind of separate. I have no idea.
I can only wonder, because one thing for certain with Fallout 76 is that they, like, Todd Howard for years was talking about the whole process of, well, we kind of want to get rid of that loading system between interior and exterior, you know, where it's like, yo, I'm going to go inside the house now and I have to go through a loading screen. It's like 76 pretty well fixed that in a lot of big ways. Like, you don't go inside a lot of, like, you don't have to go through a loading screen to get inside a building. So if just that feature alone, if that's in Starfield, then that'll
I want to see what the next evolution is after elevator loading screens.
Oh god, elevator loading screens. Are you
because
talking about
because they
those...
do still do that in Fallout 76 as well.
Oh god. Because geez, the last time that I played Fallout 4, just the number of times that I got stuck in elevators because they just wouldn't load. I was just endlessly in an elevator. I was like, okay, we found an elevator, guys. Time to save. And then
but I feel like one thing worth mentioning too, like if the conversation goes to like mods being used in newer versions of games and stuff like that, just that elevator example, like I'm pretty sure it was Mass Effect, BioWare that first did that, and it became a thing after that point because it made a lot of sense with those kinds of games. And because game development is iterative, I don't know who I'm quoting here, but that's it makes a lot of sense that they learn from each other by example. Like a lot of creative kind of things. Like I learned a lot from Will's example when it comes to video stuff. So like, you know, it's very similar in that way. So borrowing notes from mods, I don't know if that's something that really should be taboo.
I mean, as long as you like, I would say that it's encouraged, because it's very similar to, like you said, games learn from each other. It's like game developers, they play other games. It's an important thing to do, because you have to keep your ear to the ground in regards to the rest of the industry. But at the exact same time, there's always something. There's a sleazy side to it, depending on how you exercise it. It's like Sega, what was it? Was it a patent? Yeah, it was a patent on like having a big old arrow at the top of the screen pointing you where you're supposed to go.
Yes.
They first came out with that for Crazy Taxi back in the 90s. And I remember seeing like the patent documentation for like, yes, this big old arrow at the top of the screen that point you where you're supposed to go. We're patenting that. Nobody else can do it. And then nobody used the big arrow at the top of the screen until I think they let that lapse. And the first time I saw it after Crazy Taxi was in the first BioShock game, which had a big arrow at the top of the screen. But that's the reason why you ended up with like dust trails on the ground that glowed and you'd follow them and stuff like that. So
yeah, it forced them to do something else. But like a more recent example of that was the Nemesis system, which got, you know, fully claimed by WB. So nobody else gets to use a system like that one. They can make something close to it, but they can't make the same.
Yeah, which makes it makes me wonder what like the developers from the BioShock franchise, Ken Levine, who like he shut down Irrational Games that made the BioShock franchise and started a new studio called Ghost Story Games, and they've been fucking a ghost, you know, just straight up.
Mm-hmm.
And what the last thing I really remember in news for them was that they were really, really fascinated with what what was done with the Nemesis system. And then, you know, they copywrote, they patented the Nemesis system. And I'm like, maybe there's a reason why I haven't heard from them in a while. Maybe a bunch of their plans were they just got the kibosh, you know? That would really suck to be like working on a brand new system or something like that, only for someone to suddenly patent it right out from under you after you've been working on it for years.
Yeah.
That would suck so hard.
Was patenting the right word, or is it like trademarking or something? I don't know.
Trademarking, I believe, is for like logos and whatnot.
Seems like they're interchangeable almost. If you don't, I don't know the major difference between the words.
Inventions inventions involve patent, and trademarking involves branding. So
okay. Well, we kind of dipped our toes into the news already, so we could go over these in a fairly rapid fire pace, at least the retrospective stuff.
Yeah.
Because we've done probably the longest comment of the cast reply. So I hope you feel special, Cristobal, because this is not a regular thing. But in the four, I think it was just 4 retrospectives that Bethesda Softworks, their channel, put out for the Fallout 25th anniversary thing. And I messaged Sarge. I was like, hey, I wonder if by the end of this series of things, like maybe they're going to announce something, because maybe there's an ulterior motive behind like bringing in, for example, the retrospective with original creators, bring in the original creators, Tim Kaine, Leonard Boyarsky, and Brian Fargo, people that are, you know, part of Fallout's legacy, just to talk about their love for the game. And then like in other videos, Tim Kaine in particular talking about like the first time that he was shown Fallout 3, like and I don't remember that ever hearing about that, is that Todd Howard like had him come in and he was like, okay, we want to make sure we did this right here, have a look. and yeah, that just seeing that kind of sharing of stories for like the history of Fallout throughout its 25-year lifespan is cool. So all 4 of those are linked below, by the way. Yep. There's also one about the Great Green Debate, which was the word Will,
word of the day. Yes.
gave us.
Yes. Pip-Boy Green.
About the Pip-Boy Green. There's a video about it.
Unless you're playing Fallout New Vegas.
Yes, that's Pip-Boy Amber, because it has to match the desert.
I always called it orange. I just called it orange.
I would go with orange as well.
I just call it Amber because that's what it says in the menu.
It was always so jarring whenever I would see clips of Fallout from somebody else and like they changed up the color of the Pip-Boy screen.
Oh, when they have it like neon purple, where it's blinding,
blue. And I'm just like, what has happened?
This is incorrect.
You
In
bastardized.
Fallout 4, I went for red.
What's happened? You have bastardized the entire UI system. I hate you right now. Why have you done this? Like, I remember when I was doing my playthrough on YouTube for Fallout New Vegas, and like it's possible to get the Pimp Boy 3 billion or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the blinged out Pip-Boy that's gold and it's got diamonds on it, and I got it in one episode, and I was like, check this out, I got it, it's really, really cool. Now I'm gonna switch it back so I don't get a million comments for the rest of the series about where the hell that Pip-Boy came from. So I was like,
it's even better when they ask you what mod it's from.
oh my god, yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
The thing is, I'm pretty sure I've even seen it in my own comments where I didn't pick it up, and people were telling me to get the mod to get it, and just
it's kind of disappointing and also kind of amazing all at the same time, because that's the level of depth that New Vegas has. It's just so many little things. Like that was one of the few things that like I somehow missed in 5 different playthroughs, and I didn't notice it until years and years later. So
I can't remember the way to get it, but it has something to do with like siding with the Omertas, right? And like going through Mick and Ralph for some sort of supply agreement or something.
All I remember is Mick and Ralph are involved, and I mean, I love the duo Mick and Ralph, specifically because the guy who deals the weapons, you ask him, and then all of a sudden the freaking opens up in the shop, and it's like an entire armory behind bars. It's like, whoa! I mean, I think I literally screamed "Holy!" whenever I was playing the game, and that happened the first time.
I'm gonna censor that, by the way.
Okay, cool.
Just the entire thing. We're not allowed to talk about cool. That's the actual thing that you've done wrong there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just muting.
Cool.
See, I just said it. Now I gotta mute the whole thing.
Oh my god.
It's gonna be so confusing to those listening now. But so we discussed a lot of like Bethesda and the Fallout Legacy and stuff like that. But now we can move on to the new legacy, hopefully, that's going to occur first quarter next year. Crossed fingers.
Maybe.
Because there was a video before, or like right at the beginning of the 25th anniversary stuff, where Todd Howard was talking about Constellation and the Starfield faction stuff, and the character creation and different traits, and how they could be overwritten or canceled out through gameplay, which I think is pretty neat. Like, I mean, having a,
just going back to the stuff that came out. Did it all come out during E3? Yeah, it was E3 this year. Just like, you know how it is. It's like you put up any amount of video and people are like framing through all of it and reading everything that they can and getting every last.
No, we never did that.
No,
you didn't do that. I didn't do it. None of us put videos out where we went and pointed out to look at these fine little details. It's type stuff.
I didn't spend so much time in Fallout 4 promo stuff and cut out a little version of the puppet vault boy that was used in the waiting screen that only some people will remember.
But I mean, I was
this one, by
really
the way,
fascinated by the possibility of. Oh my god! Oh, you got to show that on screen now. You know that.
Yeah, I know. It's been a sticker in my Discord for years.
But I mean, like, I am legitimately interested in the way that you build and modify your character in Starfield. I put a video out about Starfield and the fact that, like, I don't want a settlement simulator out of Bethesda, but that seems to be the direction that they're going, Like, we're going to make a simulation game where you have to build bases. And it's like, that's not what I come to you for, but okay, if you're really convinced that you just have to do that every time now. And that was basically the extent of my opinion on the matter. But
I think it's really just going to depend on whether or not it's optional. Because if it's optional, amazing, brilliant. If it's forced, terrible. Why did you do this? It's either going to be one of the extremes.
Which is kind of like where my grievances for Fallout 4 come from. It's like the whole settlement building system, great, it's fantastic. I had a lot of fun with it the first time, but every single time I go back to Fallout 4, I just don't want to be bothered with it. But it's so necessary to play so many different styles of character in the game. If you want to specialize into this or that or the other thing, it's like settlement building is really the only way to get your hands on some of the necessary components to do that stuff.
It became way too beneficial, especially as more DLC came out.
So, but it's encouraging to see like the last time that I was on, I was talking about like the extreme mess that the perk chart was and how it's trying to walk in many different directions at the same time, and you're only given one perk every single level, etc. And then I was looking at like the skill trees and everything that they showed very brief shots of from E3 for Starfield, and I was like, man, that actually looks interesting. Where it's like, no, you have to be careful about choosing the perks essentially that you take, and then you actually level them up by doing stuff and not just putting another point towards them type things. So like and that seemed really, really fun to me. It's like, no, that's cool. Like, that actually kind of seems like, oh, hey, we figured out a way to put achievements into the mechanical component of the game, not just as some special meta part of it. It's like, yeah, get 15 special grenade kills and you can level up your grenade skill or whatever.
I will say I'm actually slightly worried about perks. Not in a big way, but my one concern is they might just be very simplistic, because we've only seen like a handful of them, but it's like, do more damage, and basic stuff like that. I'm hoping there's a few, like, especially towards the end of the trees, I'm hoping those are going to be like the really fun, interesting ones, which change up how the game plays.
Yeah. Interesting.
Perks are always at their best when they do something that either bends or breaks the game's rules, and it's like, okay, these rules that you were following the whole time, guess what? You no longer have to follow them, or you only kind of sort of have to follow them. And like, I love whenever stuff like that happens. It was like jury rigging out of New Vegas was one of the better perks in my opinion, because it was like, yeah, this really, really painful, durability system that most people are very, very starkly divided on. Like, this is a massive benefit to you because you no longer have to track down like super rare weapons to keep your super rare weapons repaired type stuff. So,
I mean, you could probably still accidentally use a unique to repair stuff, couldn't you?
oh, you could totally do it in the wrong direction. But
I knew you could in 3.
I mean, it just the whole concept that it's like, yeah, I have like this super rare pre-war sniper rifle, and now I can just patch it up with junky rifles that I find all over the place. Like that was a really, really cool perk, and I remember looking at that and saying, "Oh yeah!" And just like you always go for it whenever you play the game because it's so cool. And if you don't get that perk, it's like, well, you must be trying to avoid that part of the game.
I will say there's actually another concern a bit, is essential perks I'm not a big fan of, which I feel damage perks often go into, and stuff like jury rigging and just...
I mean, 76 has that problem.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think almost every Fallout game does, even if it's not essential perks, it's sometimes like, here's how you do the special stats to be the best. Like, of course you're going to play with high intelligence. If you want your character to be good...
In the first 2 games, of course you're gonna have 9 or 10 luck or 9 or 10 agility. Like you have to. Like it's an AP economy. If you don't, you die. It's like,
oh man. I mean, like, I follow it. It tracks and I get it, but at the exact same time, some of those perks, they're just so amazing that I have a limited capacity for how many times I can play through a game, and trying to play differently. It's a little bit like that joke for Skyrim where it's like, oh, you tried to play a warrior? Guess what? Here's a bow, start sneaking and kill people.
Yep.
Like,
yeah.
And I was successful at not doing that whenever I was, doing my own playthrough on YouTube, but it was difficult. It was difficult to like stick to, the particular archetype that I came up for that series, and those pitfalls are so easy. But like the concept of like, oh, here's a perk, it just does more damage, and I'm like, man,
yeah,
please do something more interesting and let just the number crunching be a number crunching, or make it automatic or something.
Yeah. See, that part makes me wonder too. Like is it still going to be one of those situations where we're just relying on perks? Because I don't remember, like, it had been a while since I've seen the other Starfield coverage. Was there a skill and perk system, or was it just perks that they were showing?
It looked a whole lot to me, because again, it's been a while since I've seen as well. But I think it was a situation where it was like, okay, you get a point to distribute like every level or every other level, but then getting that tree to go higher was strictly based on your actions and being able to do certain things, and it was no longer like, okay, we're just going to put points towards stuff.
So more of a skill growth kind of thing?
Like, I mean, yeah, I think that's the way that it works.
Okay.
Like it's not a situation of like, oh, you shot people, you shot someone X amount of times with a particular type of gun and it leveled up. It's like, no, you've done this very specific thing with this style of firearm, because and which is the reason why it's like, oh, it's almost like you figured out how to take achievements and turn them into a part of character growth. And it's
which they've been doing since what, Oblivion, or even earlier.
I guess, except,
and kind of flip-flopping though with like trying to innovate
I mean,
the systems. So
we'll see how it turns out. I remember being very hopeful of the stuff that I saw. I mean, I realize now I probably should have gone back and looked at the showcase before doing this, but
I'm looking at it now.
me too, dude.
oh, look at you, fancy pants over here.
I mean,
yeah,
able to focus on two things at once.
yeah, well, I'm looking at a lot of the perks. Annoyingly, they show off mostly the combat perks, because there's 5 sections. There's physical, social, combat, science, and tech. And I feel like combat's going to be the most basic of them, because a lot of them is like better, less swaying with snipers. Explosives do 30% more damage and have a 30% larger radius, like stuff we've seen before. And then they've also got challenge progress. For the explosive one, it's kill 125 enemies with explosives. And you
that's
do that
what it
and
was.
It ranks up the perk.
Yeah, so you were kind of like on the cusp of that, the almost achievement defying that, but making it valuable.
Which is
it seems
frankly,
like each perk has levels to it.
which frankly, in my opinion, it's like, okay, that's cool. Like, let me choose a path and start working on that path without having to just put a point towards it every single time. I think that that's more engaging than, the perk chart system that they had in Fallout 4. And I don't know how much Bethesda wants to learn their lesson from their previous games versus how much they're just trying to throw things at a wall every single time that they make it.
I mean, that's kind of on brand.
I mean, I don't legitimately know, other than the fact that, like, I remember seeing a behind the scenes thing years ago where Todd Howard was like, it doesn't have to be on the board. What matters is what's in the game. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I can advocate for the idea of, like, what's in the game is what matters. But at the same time, if you don't have a really good, diagram up on that board for how things are supposed to be working together, you might end up with a bit of a mess.
Yep, quite possible.
So,
But speaking of something that may not be a mess, I wanted to mention the dialogue system that they teased too when the Constellation questions thing was going on. It showed the traits for a short time, like a whole list of them, and stopped on a couple of them. But it also showed the dialogue system, which was using a point banking system. Or like kind of thing. And I think I kind of like it more than a percentage chance. But we'll have to see like how it is in gameplay, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just happy to see, like, some amount of role playing where it's like you can talk your way through stuff again, Like, I like the bar is low in regards to interaction with NPCs after Fallout 4. Okay.
Yeah.
So seeing this system, even though I don't know how it's going to play out, I'm like, cool, that's fine, because I've gotten Fallout 3, which was a straight up percentage chance. There were things where, like, even with 100% charisma, you still had a 50% chance to fail at it,
Yep.
And then you got Fallout New Vegas, where it was flat, okay, this is what your skill has to be able to pass it, and that's just the way that we're going to do it. Both equally fine to do. One a little bit more annoying than the other, and it resulted in save scrumming.
Yep.
But just the ability to try to talk through a situation, I'm like, nope, good enough, I'll take it.
I mean, as long as it's not the yellow and red that 4 did, like,
oh god,
I'm okay with whatever is different.
Yeah.
Because
looking at the progression of how speech has gone in the most recent game, 76, I have fairly high hopes, because I feel like, although it took a long time to get to that point, 76, when it does conversations now, does it quite well.
It does.
So I feel like they've put a lot more emphasis on kind of sorting out talking to characters.
It's also like, it feels like the best evolution of like a history of dialogues that gaming has experienced, because you even have the log. They have the characters have a light on their face so you can actually see them. Like,
I mean, I feel to a certain degree the lighting on the face was probably Bethesda looking at what happened with the Outer Worlds and saying,
that's what I figured too. Yeah.
Oh, this is a good idea. We should have been doing this a while ago.
It is,
because like for all of the faults that Outer Worlds has, like, I really did enjoy talking with NPCs in that game.
Yes.
Like learning the lore in the world, and especially all of the companions. Like, I sat there for like a half hour every single time I found a new companion. I was like, okay, What's your story? Tell me everything about yourself.
Let's get to know you. Yeah, because they all had something interesting going on.
And I mean, in regards to the Outer Worlds, that was really the best part of it because the characters were so well fleshed out. Story being a completely different topic, but
Yep.
not going to go down that path any further.
But the most important bit though is like the dialogue. It's like the box and its placement and the UI and stuff like that is very similar to how 76 has done it. So it may be, close to, or maybe even the same engine that they're using between both games.
Yeah. I hope they stick with this just for all of their games, because I've been playing a lot of Skyrim recently, and it's just slightly clunky with how the dialogue works and that. Having it all just in a box, like, it might not be as immersive, but it's just simple, it's clean, it works.
Yeah, I mean, I remember whenever Oblivion was out and people were complaining about the fact that the menu system was nothing but a spreadsheet. And then Skyrim came out and they were like, we did things to make the inventory less like a spreadsheet. And like the first mod was, hey, here's your spreadsheet back.
Here's your spreadsheet
back. We need it, man. We just need it. There's just, it works.
And Sky UI is one of the most popular mods ever made for Skyrim. It's so funny.
So, it just, also the not going the Mass Effect route or the BioWare route of having like, oh, sarcastic. And it's like, I have no clue what sarcastic means here. All right. Are you just going to make a funny quip or are you going to shoot somebody in the process? Yep. I can't tell. Like having the entire statement written out for me. Also, like, I don't know where I'm going with in regards to like Let's Plays and stuff because of the YouTube algorithms these days. But if Starfield has half decent writing, I really like doing series where I sit there and I read out the entire dialogue and make do effective acting to be like, okay, this is the character I'm playing and I'm going to like do my best to seriously act out my character and make these interactions with NPCs fun. I love
I'd say on that front, the one kind of preview box we have is quite good, because it feels like it goes from the top box, which is more of a timid, just, hey, we're all friends here kind of character, to the bottom one, which is, screw you, buddy, I'm tougher than you, get out of my way.
It's like, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah. And I like seeing that there.
I like, and there's an art form, right, to basically having an entire impactful message in one sentence with your writing. It's like the NPC is saying how many words, and then it's your turn to talk, and it's like one sentence and it needs to say everything. And it's like, there's an art form to that, but God, it's so much more than, the little dialogue wheel, which we had a time for it, and I think its time has come and gone.
We had a chance to try.
Seconded. Motion passed.
We tried, but Silent Protag with the box is wonderful. It's still good. Easier to role play with too. So, speaking of role playing and different studios doing things, that was not a segue. That was very good.
Are we going here?
We're going here.
We're going here.
Konami announced a Silent Hill 2 remake, as well as many other Silent Hill projects, like kind of all at once.
Yeah, that was a very chunky stream that they did, so much at the same time. Because of all the things to come out of it, I think what I am most surprised about is the fact that they're making another Silent Hill film.
Yeah,
by far, because I don't want to spoil anything for people if they're suddenly interested in the old games.
Could we go over like the four things that they're doing?
Oh yeah, sure. It probably might be a good place to start.
I found the article that actually said like the four things. So there's going to be a remake of Silent Hill 2. That's one of the things.
Yeah, that's the title thing that everybody talks about.
There's going to be Townfall, which is going to be through Annapurna and No Code. That's going to be based like kind of a narrative based type of game. So maybe along the lines of a Telltale kind of experience or an adventure game experience.
Yeah, it's like a pick your path adventure type thing. Is my understanding. And I think it's supposed to be FMVs driven or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I didn't pay much attention to it.
I mean, I feel
There's
like they're
a
having
lot
a
of
bit of a
things.
resurgence recently, so I could definitely see that being the case.
Ascension is the least game-like installment, but it comes with a big name attached, J.J. Abrams, interactive streaming series, where the entire community shapes the canon of Silent Hill.
There you go.
So there's also that. Then
I'm
there's
looking
Silent
forward
Hill
to our
F.
next protagonist being... Oh, I can't say any of those words. Oh well. Joke still works.
There's Silent Hill F, a game that sounds like an exciting departure from the series. It's coming from Ryukishi07, a creator known for crafting acclaimed visual novels with psychological horror and supernatural mysteries, blah blah blah. But this is going to be like the new Silent Hill something. That's probably going to be a game. But the main thing here is that Konami is kind of like letting third parties do what they will with the franchise and kind of just letting them do it.
And I'm
because...
hardly surprised by that, because basically I think it was right after the release, or not long after the release of Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2, that they essentially started shutting everything down.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 coming out, and it got kind of real meh reviews, middle of the road type stuff. And not long after, you started hearing about like studios being shuttered and everything like that. And I remember Hideo Kojima, he was a holdout because he had been so independent.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a very public falling out with the company whenever things finally got shut down for him. So just crazy major restructuring that happened at that company. So the fact that they have dipped their toes in any capacity to use their IPs outside of pachinko machines, which if you're not aware, they started licensing all of this serious video game IP for pachinko machines, which is just basically a gambling slot machine, if you will.
Basically, it's more fun to watch in my mind than a regular slot machine, but it's still gambling.
Oh yeah, there's a whole microcosm in Japan around it. I promise, if you go Googling, you will fall down a rabbit hole that you'll probably watch a bunch of documentaries about how the economy around it works. But it's that's all that they were doing with their IP, and now all of a sudden it's maybe we're gonna let video games be made about these IPs again, because they're definitely not going to sell any of the stuff,
Mm-hmm.
So let outside companies do that stuff and have fun with it. And personally, in regards to this stuff, I'm a unique mix of incredulous and excited,
Mm-hmm.
Because Silent Hill 2 is known as the best entry in the franchise by many, many people. And I am partial to the idea that it is basically lightning in a bottle, and you can't really recapture that. One of the things that I remember learning about Silent Hill 2 was that in the course of the game, there's 5 or 6 characters, and one of them is a little girl that you encounter several times. So they were having casting for this little girl, and a father brought his daughter in to try out for the role, and the director was like, hey, you, how about we get you in a booth to try some stuff out? And he was like, what are you talking about? This is just a normal guy, he's not even a voice actor or anything. And then he was like, okay, sure, why not? So they go and they put him in a booth, and they're like, that's it, you're James. And that's how they decide on it. And that's the reason why James in Silent Hill 2 is so strange. He's not a proper voice actor, but it ended up working to a pretty good degree because Silent Hill is such a weird psychological horror, And that, you don't get direction like that. You don't get art direction like that with, tell me that somebody in a studio would do that today with the level of budget that you get with video games.
In AAA, no.
It doesn't happen. You can't get that unless it's a small indie game. But
there's double A is the fun gray area, because the one thing that came to mind was Hellblade. Like, and they got I think her name is Melina Jurgens to play as Senua, and she was just their editor to start with.
Oh, really?
And she ended up being one of
Hellblade's Senua's Sacrifice.
Yes.
I remember the subtitle better than I do the name.
she managed to be one of the like best performances in gaming over the course of that 5 years where Hellblade came out. Because like I'm not stretching it just for, you know, just because I'm a major fan of Ninja Theory, but like it ended up being an incredible game. So,
I mean, I'm all for that stuff. I'm a fan of it. It's just like Konami was an industry leader when they made Silent Hill 2, and they had an existing franchise that was a big deal at the time for as big as the gaming industry was. So that is a unique intersection. That's a unique moment in time that you're not going to get back ever again. You know?
yeah.
It's like, yeah, they're a big studio. They're known for doing these amazing things. This is the sequel to a game that was like really, really well received in the last generation. And now it's gonna, you know, it's going out on the new console, the PlayStation 2. And, you know, and oh, hey, that guy over there, how about you just, you know, be the main guy? Just like lightning in a bottle, man.
Yep.
But all the same, I'm interested to see where it's gonna go. I just, in regards to all this stuff, I wish that Silent Hill F was something that looked like I could play it.
Yeah.
Because, like, I watched the trailer for it and I was like, nope, can't do that. Can't do that. Just like things growing out of flesh and everything. I'm just like, nope, I got a line, and it's not there.
Not interested in that either. But also, I just don't do horror games like at all. Which, as an aside, like, I have a feeling Kojima's next project is going to be horror related, and I'm worried that I won't be able to play it. Like, which will make me the saddest fan in the world.
I might be willing to give Kojima a Kojima horror game a shot. I mean, I know that I used to like consume a lot of the really, really good horror games from the PlayStation 2 era, and Fatal Frame was one of them, you know, the franchise. And I know that I think they're going to release what was originally a Wii exclusive on Steam sometime in the future now. So if anybody doesn't know about that, you'll have to like do your own Googling to check it. But I think it's like Fatal Frame Mask of the Lunar Eclipse or something. It's just interesting to see the older stuff come to PC. Anyways, that's everything I have to say.
Well, wow. I'm actually impressed that we made it through the Konami topic without too much lingering on all the nonsense related to it.
Almost forgot. Screw Konami.
Okay, yes.
There you go. Have to get that.
I agree. Screw Konami. I hate them a lot, which makes me very mixed on the whole Silent Hill thing to begin with. But anyway, something that may also be mixed, we don't know enough yet, but we sure see some pretty trailers with some cool effects and a little bit of gameplay action. The Final Fantasy 16 new trailer,
summer 2023,
just dropped, and it had a release window that you just mentioned. So
yeah. Sorry, I cut you off at the pass there.
No, you're fine. How have we done? Sarge is probably the only person that I know that has played and enjoyed a more recent Final Fantasy game.
Well,
okay, Sarge.
Didn't you play the 7 remake and enjoy that?
That's just part of Final Fantasy 7. I don't know if that counts.
No, you can't just be like, oh, I've never played a modern Final Fantasy game and enjoyed it.
I'm talking about
remake plays exactly like the modern ones do.
Okay, no, 7 is a weird anomaly because it has all of this backstory that they can just build off of more. I'm talking about like new stories, new entries, that kind of thing.
Caedo, do not get your hopes up for the continuation of the Final Fantasy VII remake thing. Whatever the next entry is. After all, it is controlled by ye old Tetsuya Nomura.
Nope, he's a side person in the second game.
He is?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Okay,
He's
well maybe
advisor.
it has a chance, and it won't be full of darkness, darkness.
There's no more Heartless. They got rid of Destiny. It's gone now. It's just weird timeline stuff now. It's fine. It's not fine. I'm just telling myself that. Sarge, you played Paradise guy, Final Fantasy game.
Final Fantasy Origins Strangers of Paradise.
Yes, that one.
Final Fantasy Origins. What? Huh?
Final Fantasy Origins Stranger of Paradise. What's so difficult to remember about that title? It's not like it has 2 different subheaders and no number next to it.
I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that there's no number in it. I don't know about you. I hear Final Fantasy. I expect to see some big Roman numeral after it. So.
Oh, I mean, there's so many non-Roman numeral ones, it's ridiculous now.
Yeah.
Strangers of Paradise, I enjoyed. I never got around to finishing it, but I might do in the future. I will say, even though it's like a modern one, like with the 7 remake thing, it has a lot of tying into previous ones. But that's kind of the thing with all Final Fantasy games to an extent, because they're all more following a theme rather than following exact characters. You rarely have sequels in the franchise as a whole.
Listen, there's one thing that matters, and it's whether or not you got some guy named Sid with an airship. If you're missing one of those 2 things, you've lost me. Also, Biggs and Wedge?
Biggs and
Wedge.
Biggs and Wedge.
Biggs and Wedge didn't pop around till like 5 or 6, right?
I don't know when they introduced them. What I know is
it must be 5 or 6, because I've played 1 through 4 recently, and they didn't show up.
Oh, man.
I'm gonna guess 6 due to the setting, and they're more often showing up in the more sci-fi-esque ones.
I'll tell you what's been fascinating.
They're a reference to Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
They were?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I can't believe you brought up Biggs and Wedge and didn't even realise that.
Oh my god. Yeah, you're right. Now that I'm thinking it, because like what is it?
I think it's A New Hope.
Yeah, A New Hope.
Yeah.
I like that is the one Star Wars film that I've watched the most in my lifetime. It's like, oh yeah, Biggs, Wedge. Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm having a moment. Oh jeez.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. You know, I'm like, I don't know that I'll be able to play it because of the fact, good luck finding a freaking PlayStation 5 or 5. Yeah, it's 5.
Oh, you can reserve them now. You can as long as you get on the list, you can probably get one.
Like what is it? The previous president of Nintendo of America, like I follow him, Reggie Fils-Aimé. I follow him on Twitter, and like every single time he's asked about the video game industry, he says, your biggest problem right now is the fact that there are consoles that have been out for how many years that are the new consoles, and nobody can just walk into a store and get one. That's a huge industry problem, you know?
Yeah.
And like it doesn't take a genius to figure that out, but you know, if you're not going to listen to anybody else, listen to the guy who ran Nintendo for like 15 years in America.
Yeah.
So
I think a benefit that came along with that was like around the time when Sony was like kind of knew that like PlayStations would just not be available to everyone and just get snapped up by people. That they also started their PC movement for a lot of their
you know, I never thought
well-known
about it like
properties.
That.
Yeah, I think that had a silver lining here, because I am optimistic to a fault, but I think that could have had an effect to like open up the idea of Sony actually giving us some stuff on the PC because of that lack of consumers. Because nobody could get a PS5.
I mean, fingers crossed over here, man. I just Bloodborne PC. Like it'll never happen. But you know.
Yeah. I actually have he doesn't listen to the podcast. I have my old PS4 because I did get a PS5, so I don't need to like have the PS4 anymore.
Well, now I have to tell you that I hate you.
And
I mean,
thank you. Like I said, if I can get one through the reserve system, I think you can too. You just got to go to the Sony site and jump through their hoops.
I mean, I'm so conflicted about it because it's like I have a PlayStation 4 downstairs, and I have 5 games for the thing, and I specifically went out and bought it for Bloodborne, you know, and since then, basically everything except Bloodborne has come to the PC, and I'm just sitting here like, can you really justify this to yourself?
Yeah.
Is it? But I mean, if nothing else, I should probably get it because it's the media machine, and I can still.
Yeah.
Like it's better than the
do
apps
Blu-ray
on the TV
thing
and stuff. So.
Yeah. But I had to go through that too when I was deciding on getting a PS5, because I was like, okay, which games do I really want that I think are going to be on the PS5 for a long time? And Returnal was one of them. I think Miles Morales is that still a PS5 exclusive? It was just the Spider-Man remake that
it's either still an exclusive, or it just recently stopped being exclusive.
Yeah. And I also got Horizon Forbidden West, which is probably on PC now. Nope, it's not yet.
I mean, I think it's just a matter of time for that one. Like,
Yeah.
Sony seems pretty clear-eyed on that at this point. It's just like, listen, PC is not a competition for us. We may as well just put the stuff over there because it's free extra money, as long as we bundle the process of getting it onto the PC into the budget whenever it's being developed. And then we just kind of push it out a year later to encourage people to, come to our platform first. So, like, but I mean, back to the topic of Final Fantasy 16.
Yes.
I'm very intrigued. Like, if I had a PlayStation 5, I would be like, no, I'm going to get it, launch day. We'll see whether or not I actually get my hands on a console or not. But and part of that is because I've been playing Final Fantasy games, regularly for years now. It's like, okay, you came up with a new mainline entry, I'm going to give it a shot. And even whenever they don't turn out all that well, like Final Fantasy 15 was a bit of but what do you guys know about Final Fantasy 14?
Oh, 14?
Yeah, the online one, the most recent online one.
That it got relaunched and it was apparently amazing.
So, do you guys know why Final Fantasy as a franchise is called what it is?
Because it was going to be the last one that the creator made.
Yeah, the company didn't have the money to continue going. So they were like, okay, we don't really have enough money to make more than one game, so we're just going to put all our money towards one final game and then we'll close. And it ended up being a blockbuster success, and it saved the company, Squaresoft.
Yeah.
Most people do not know that the relaunch of Final Fantasy XIV did the same thing to the company. They were hurting
Makes sense.
so badly financially because they were having blunder after blunder going, and FF14 has really turned the company around for them, and their fortunes and whatnot, and that's a fascinating thing for me to learn. But the reason why this matters in regards to FF16 is because
it's a coin flip.
Well, the reason why this matters is because FF14 is incredibly good, but it's one of those things where it's like, if you get in and you start playing the game, you're like, they do nothing but talk, and I don't understand what anybody is talking about, and it is so mind-numbingly boring. Okay.
I think we should go.
So.
That's a good spot to mention, like, kind of what the trailer is setting up for Final Fantasy 16, which is a war between at least 4 nations and the political intrigue in between those nations, and also, oh yeah, you're imbued with the power of the gods sometimes.
Yeah.
And they use you up like a god battery.
Yeah.
So,
you're like, my understanding is that you play as literally the summons that are known in all of the games. It's like Shiva or Ixion or Bahamut or Ifrit.
I'm actually getting some theming vibes similar to Divinity Original Sin 2.
Because that is one that I've never played.
Because that's basically what the Godwoken is. The Godwoken is, well, obviously, your character and your party. They are serving their own gods because they are constantly at war over the resource that is basically souls. It's called Source. It controls magic and stuff like that. It's very live streamy, but but the there's this thing where all of the gods kind of are corrupt, but they are essentially using you as just a conduit to feed themselves.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, so I'm wondering if that's a very similar vibe to what Final Fantasy 16 is doing, which is why it mentioned like I can't let you use me, and they have like these lesions on their skin. It shows somebody in their deathbed. Like Like that could be a cool thing, a cool first of all, who are we gonna control, but secondly, like making it one of those resources where yeah, you can do something, you know, extremely powerful, but the risk is very high.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I'm intrigued by the setup. I'm very intrigued by the setup, and from what I've seen, it has a very strong FF14 feel to it. But here's the reason why I brought up FF14. Okay, for as mind-numbingly boring as FF14 is whenever you start it up and you start playing through the main story quest, because like it's one of those situations where you can't really access sections of the world until you get through the main story.
Yeah, the big stuff that like people laud as like the best parts of 14 are like late game.
Yeah.
Things.
So, have either of you ever heard of the narrative tool called Chekhov's gun?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
So okay.
No.
Both of you know.
What?
Yeah. Okay. I'll just explain it just in case nobody knows.
I'm walking through an alleyway, right? And I encounter this guy named Chekhov, and he pulls a gun, and I'm like, oh no! Chekhov's gun!
It's actually, Chekhov from Star Trek way back in the day. No.
Oh.
Chekhov's gun is this narrative rule where it's like, listen, if you specifically when you're writing a book, if you put a gun down on a table or you hang it in a strap or something, then it had better go off at some point within, like the next chapter or two or something like that. Sometime within the book, that gun has to go off because you do not explicitly say that you hung the gun there or you put it down for no reason whatsoever. Okay.
Drawing focus to it without payoff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you
got to make sure you do.
That is pointless to point out that you put the gun down if it does not serve a purpose later. So what I have come to understand from everybody I've ever talked to about FF14 is that they take that rule so close to heart that they are basically running the first 3 expansions in the most slow, cringingly, boringly way, so that you get bam, 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 like guns are going off all over the place that you hardly remember them by the time you hit the end of the
That's
last expansion that you got. But it's like how many hours of setup before you hit that point, and you like the emotional impact of the stuff does not pay off if you don't go through it slow. You can like do all sorts of things like buy a story skip or something like that and just watch a bunch of sequences or whatever. But what's important is that there's way too many people out there who are like, this is the best writing I have ever seen in my life. Like, I have heard that way too many times for it not to be true in some degree. And it took me forever to figure out that this is the reason why. It's because they follow Chekhov's gun so incredibly closely that they're not wasting anything, even when it seems useless. And the reason why this matters is because the Yoshi P, who's responsible for Final Fantasy XIV, is also the director of Final Fantasy XVI, and they have writers from Final Fantasy XIV on Final Fantasy XVI. So you don't have the length and breadth of a MMO that's been going for over a decade to tell that long of a story. But if they can bring the same caliber of writing to FF16, well, I've kind of got expectations about what they're capable of doing. And that's the reason why watching it, I'm like, it seems like you're going somewhere with this that actually interests me, and you have a good track record, So that's like, I'm basically over explaining myself, but that's the reason why FF16 is in my book. I'm like, no, I'm very interested in this. I might actually go through the trouble of getting a PlayStation 5, despite the fact that this might be the only game that I will ever play on it, type situation.
Yeah.
That, and I'm certain that my girlfriend would love to have a PlayStation 5 when they finally come out with, Kingdom Hearts 4.
I was so tempted to rain on that parade when she was streaming it, but I decided to be helpful instead. Because I've played through it. I've suffered, but I don't want anybody else to if they're having a good time. So.
I mean, she's been very clear eyed on it. She's like, no, I will watch all the spoilers because I'm playing this game since I've played the previous ones. So, yeah. Anyway, FF16. That's my story and my take on it.
FF16, big crystals, god powers, and decapitations, and lots of blood.
Yeah,
from
lots of
decapitations.
blood.
That was pretty cool.
It's incredibly like I've heard people say it's very Game of Thronesy the way that it comes off.
Yeah, maybe that was one of the inspirations for this one.
I've never watched Game of Thrones. Well, I've watched the first episode of Game of Thrones.
I haven't either. So.
And I'm just like, I don't care about this, and I never bothered with any of it. So, you know.
But they decapitated a character that was shown in another part of the trailer as important to the kid. So.
Oh yeah, they did.
Like yeah, so like it could be, but all I know about Game of Thrones is they kill off characters left and right after the audiences become connected with them.
Which is the exact way that you're supposed to like make some sort of an impact with death.
Chekhov's gun. Pow, pow, pow.
All right.
Anyway, let's move on to the last thing. Sarge was whispering in my ear that the Obsidian CEO, Fargus Urquhart, I think he was in the retrospective stuff too. Quoted as saying, "My hope is that before I ride off into the sunset, I'd love to make another Fallout game." Is this a something or a nothing, Sarge?
A bit of both. It's always the case with New Vegas 2 rumors. Although I will say, credit where it's due, New Vegas 2 is not actually mentioned here. They do stick to the facts of what was said, which is just, it'd be nice to make another Fallout game, essentially. There's a big quote there saying, at some point we'll start looking into what those next games are going to be, as in what games they're making after all of the stuff they're currently working on. And I would be surprised if Fallout is not on that list. If we were to do Fallout, it has to tie in with what Bethesda is doing with Fallout and a lot of other things. Ooh. But I would always personally say my hope is that before I ride off into the sunset, I'd love to make another Fallout game.
I mean, who knows? You know, like I think it's more likely to happen these days because they're both under Microsoft at this point.
Yeah.
Yes. Not just both, all three.
Yeah.
Because In Exile as well.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So, you know, it's just like Microsoft has done, they vacuumed up so many studios, and you have to wonder what the longer game with Microsoft is for that, but that's a topic for another day. I'm hopeful that you can get at least a similar composition of really, really accomplished RPG creators from Obsidian making another Fallout game. I mean, I don't think that it would ever happen, but I would love to see Obsidian try to make like a side story Elder Scrolls game, because it's been so long, you know. I don't think we'll ever see that, but it's like Obsidian has proven time and time again that they are very capable of making good RPGs. And they've been very capable historically with working with other people's IP. That's exactly what New Vegas was, you know, like working with other people's tool sets and everything.
I mean, that's what a lot of stuff at Interplay was too.
Yeah. So it's like, hey, that's cool. That's fantastic. I would love to see this. But at the same time, like the Bethesda, like, I don't know how much Microsoft is stepping up and being like, okay, we're Big Daddy now, and you're going to do what we tell you. They don't seem to be doing a whole lot of that, you know? So
no, they seem to mostly be just letting the studios get on, and if they're doing well, great for them.
So it's like, I don't expect anything. I see like an ownership change and not a whole lot of anything else, but it does make for a situation where like getting cross-studio cooperation, like there are just fewer barriers to that, but that does not create new incentive to do so. And like we were saying back at the start, it's almost like Bethesda, they don't want to talk about it too much, because it's like it's their baby at this point. That's what Fallout is. Yeah. So, you know, what can you get when they don't really want to do that anymore? I mean, I think the best thing that you could ever hope for is that Bethesda is perfectly fine with like, okay, like we're basically, if you know, if you consider this like going around in a circle and you have different points on that circle, which is, you know, the release of another game, they basically have 3 points on that, you know, what is that called whenever with planets? It's not a revolution.
Orbit.
There we go.
Immersion. It's called Immersion. Buy my shirt.
But I mean, if you were to class like Bethesda's distance from the IPs that they have access to as points in an orbit, like when Bethesda finally gets the farthest away from a Fallout game that they are possibly going to get, that would be the best time for an Obsidian game on the same IP to come out, where it's like, yeah, it's been like 6 years since the last Fallout, and it's gonna be another 6 years before the next Fallout type thing. Yeah. I don't know what.
And they already did that. Like, I'm wondering if we're using a previous example, because that's exactly what they were doing when they were working on Skyrim, is having Obsidian do New Vegas. So it's not
like,
outside of the realm of possibility, I guess.
Like, that's the best that I could hope for, where it's like, okay, hey guys, here's the engine. We don't have any brand new assets to work with, but this is the engine that you got to build it in. Have at it, make another Fallout game, because it's going to be another like 8 years before we get another Fallout game out type thing. You know, like that I think is the best and most hopeful, because otherwise you end up with Fallout 3 2 years later, Fallout New Vegas, and there is heavy comparison type stuff. And I think I just can't fathom that Bethesda didn't get a bad taste in their mouth, where everybody was like, dude, this is so much better.
I think that's why they're not talking about it as much, because they know that rabid fans are rabid. It's like,
I will say they haven't ever said no. There's never been a public, oh, we're not going to let another studio play around with this or anything like that. And there's been some cooperation shown by the fact that stuff like Fallout 4, they got id Software to help with the gunplay and all of that stuff. They at least don't show any strong reluctance to this. But like Caedo says, with the whole rabid fan base, it's easy to see why they're not just going to be like, oh yeah, we'll give Obsidian it, whatever. Who cares, blah.
Yeah.
I mean,
they get worked up by the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
The particularly loud ones I'm talking about, by the way. None of our listeners, obviously.
There's also the fact that like there needs to be a good amount of tempering of expectation, because it's like, let's not be like let's not delude ourselves into imagining that Fallout New Vegas is like a standard or anything. That is, I think that's a high mark, and I think it's lightning in a bottle, and you don't know that you're gonna be able to get that again. You know?
Yeah. Not only is it high mark, but I think it's one which a lot of people now look at with rose-tinted glasses.
Yes.
And often
yes, they
don't
do.
accept the flaws that are in the game.
Like, that game was so busted when it came out.
Oh yeah.
Like, the number of game-breaking, like, props to them for patching it as well as they did, but the number of game-breaking bugs that were in there, where it was possible to like get locked into a room permanently and you were soft locked. Like, there were tons of soft locks in that game. So,
yeah.
But then again, you release any game these days, and like support afterwards is almost half of it. You know?
Over half.
I mean,
for some of them.
To kind of talk about that, the other side of this all is that Obsidian has a ton of stuff to work on. They've just properly released Grounded, which actually came out like a few years ago or something now.
Grounded was a small team, though.
Yeah, but they had that team working on that. They've got Pentiment coming in like a few weeks. There's Avowed, which is like the Skyrim-esque game, which we've seen nothing of, and The Outer Worlds 2. So we've got at least 2 big RPGs they're already working on before they could really dedicate a large enough team to another Bethesda IP.
So, who knows?
Or with the lack of what they announced with The Outer Worlds 2, they could do a side project. I don't want to put more pressure on Obsidian though either, because like they should have a chance to do their own thing, and I have said that many times in the past.
Yeah, and I mean they've had several years of doing really, really good their own thing. with what was the series that they did? Pillars of Eternity, or was it something else?
Yeah,
It was Pillars of Eternity. Okay.
Avowed is going to be in that universe too.
So, like, is Avowed a first-person game, or is it like another isometric?
First
It
person.
appears to be first person. We have only got like one semi-cinematic trailer that's like super short, so we don't actually know much about it, but it was in first person, so it'll probably be that.
I've just tried to do those old isometric games, and they just don't jive with me. Like, I completely missed that train because of how... I've tried to go back and play the original Fallout games, and I'm like, man, I just can't. They just don't work with me.
If you do get that urge again at any point in time, and this is for anybody else listening too, I would suggest easing yourself in with a newer game like Wasteland 3 or Divinity Original Sin 2, because those are very newer games in that isometric style that have a lot of, more modern, advanced mechanics that are easier to pick up on.
Okay.
Which is a better way of easing yourself into the classic games, more so than just firing up the classic games and hoping for the best.
That actually makes me wonder. I've heard incredible things about Disco Elysium, but it always looked like the wrong type of perspective game for me. Do you guys know if that plays the same, or?
I think that one is much more narrative and choice driven. So that's where the conflict lies more. So I think,
Okay,
but
then.
that's, I haven't played it, so I can't speak too much on it, but I know it's just got like a really like wacky art style and a lot of like talking to your subconscious kind of thing. It seems very interesting.
Some of the stuff that was in it was like, I had it described to me, and I was like, that is an incredibly intuitive way to come up with how to do a certain component of the RPG, and how you can manipulate dialogue. I remember someone who was responsible for like a lot of dialogue in Fallout New Vegas was like, oh yeah, like this is just a clunky hunk of like working with dialogue and NPC interactions, and you can't get around it. And then Disco Elysium came out, and they were like, I have been proven wrong. You can get around it in an intuitive way. So, like, for someone of that position to say that, I was like, oh, it was just like, oh wow. Well, maybe I should look into this. But time and all that stuff. Time being my the one thing I don't have enough of.
Yeah.
I have sidetracked enough.
Because you're still part-time, huh?
Oh, I don't think I'll ever not be part-time.
You have real job too.
Yes, I have real job, and and that real job is not going anywhere because, again, I live in America and my real job has health insurance.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yep.
So health insurance that get this, I don't pay for it, and it's better than health insurance that I've seen from anybody else. So
yeah.
When you get something good, you don't let go of it.
I gotta re-up mine because I pay for mine. And yeah.
I don't envy you.
Yep. I don't either.
I don't pay.
I don't envy me.
I get it all for free. Everyone envy me.
I envy Sarge.
As some of the Brits I have spoken to in the past have said, I get horrible substandard healthcare for free.
I mean, I've never had bad healthcare, but I don't use it that much.
Which is exactly what most people hope for.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like if I break my leg or something, I just know that it'll be okay.
Yeah. Ooh.
Peace of mind is worth a whole lot.
It is.
Yes.
It sure is. So, speaking of peace of mind, we're like a safety blanket. We're going into a topic that is critiquing the gamer listicle, because it's fun, and William didn't have a chance to do this with us just yet. Like, we started doing this like after, probably a few episodes after you were here the first time.
Oh, you leave me out like that. When was the last time I was on? Was it last year?
It was this year, but it was April.
Oh my god, it's the same year? Holy moly.
It felt like a
Okay.
long time though, so like it worked out just fine. I didn't mention it. Jared's not with us, by the way, because he got COVID. He's very sick. So,
Oh, dear.
Wish him the best, by the way. I didn't do that at all in the intro, and I feel like a bad friend.
So, wait a minute. Are you telling me that there's
So-
a third normal co-host that I am not aware of?
There is, usually.
My word.
He rejoined us too, like a month and a half ago, I think. A month ago.
Yeah.
Because his schedule allowed for it. That's why our schedule for recording is so weird right now.
Oh, okay.
So
'cause,
it's
yeah,
basically his fault, but it's okay because it's Jared.
it's like 4 o'clock in the morning for me. I haven't gone to bed yet, and I'm just like, okay, these guys are working a schedule that I suppose I can work with.
Yeah. But anyway, leave some nice comments for Jared. He'll see them if you're listening this far in. But anyway, so we're going over as our topic the 10 things Fallout 4 does better than other open world games via The Gamer, written by Doric Captain with a K, which is pretty cool.
Okay,
It's a cool
so
last name.
my understanding here is that you go after these articles from The Gamer because you don't necessarily agree with them very frequently.
It's not just a matter of agreement. A lot of the time, it's also a matter of just incorrect information.
Oh, okay.
Like
then.
you would read something in one of these The Gamer lists and be like, this person definitely doesn't play this game.
Okay.
The
And
last
watch
one I was
some
on here for
gameplay
was
instead or something.
Yeah, there was such simple stuff like it was like 15 things to do after beating Fallout 4, and it was stuff like explore the world, talk to characters.
Yes, I did see that one. I was just like, what? Caedo, you specifically linked it to me. That's the reason why I saw it.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like this is everything that makes up the game itself.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So
More than anything, we're reviewing the article,
more so, yeah.
seeing if it's a
So, like-
competent one or if we're just going to laugh at it.
Like we may have a scoring system where we go through each one and we're like, is this one actually something that would be helpful or no?
Okay,
Or something along those lines.
Let's
So
get started then.
yeah. So this is 10 things Fallout 4 still does better than other open world games. I'll just read the first bit. Fallout 4 may have its flaws, but these things it does better than other open world games. It's just the title again. Fallout 4 is a classic franchise by this point. The post-apocalyptic series is generally beloved, but it got put on fire at points. For example, Fallout 4 has my god, I cannot read today.
When you were so confident, I'm going to read this.
I'm gonna not read this apparently. For
You
example,
want me to take over?
no, I'll let you take over for the first one. For example, Fallout 4 was somewhat divisive when it came out back in 2015. Some criticized it for the dialogue tree, the graphics, or the more action-oriented gameplay instead of the role-playing features. Despite these criticisms, however, tons of people have enjoyed the game throughout the years, and that is for good reason. While not perfect, Fallout 4 does some things way better than other open-world games, even by today's standards. They say there's no edit in this one, so this may actually be a recent article.
Yeah, I mean, published June 20th of this year.
Yeah.
Very
I say
very
recent. I say
Very
recent, but a
yes.
couple of months. Maybe like 4. Okay, so why don't we try not to scroll down too far either, because the surprise is part of the fun.
Okay. Well, okay. I guess I'll do this first one here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so 10 out of 10. So 10-point list. The first one here. Monster design, from ghouls to deathclaws. Fallout has given us some of the best monsters in gaming since its jump to 3D with Fallout 3, and Fallout 4 expanded on this a lot. You have many variants of the classic ghouls, super mutants, and the deadly deathclaws. There are scary, creepy, and even flying bugs sure to have you screaming, "Kill it with fire!" The game will surely have your heart pounding when you see a new version of a disfigured creature running at you at full speed.
This is a good start.
I mean, I feel like they could have gone into a bit more specificity with what exactly they mean by the design.
I will
Because
say,
I feel like... Oh, God.
I will say, like, the Deathclaws, it's like, no. Fallout New Vegas had, like, Deathclaws on lock. those things scared me to death.
Yeah, I feel like the New Vegas Deathclaws were scarier. What Fallout 4 did really well with Deathclaws was like the animations.
Yeah, I remember someone like they had that big initial demo for Fallout 4 where it was, you know, like it was the Conquered Ruins, where you're shooting with the minigun at the very end, and someone zoomed in on the Deathclaw and said, "Oh yeah, did you notice that they dodge now?" And it was doing this hopping back and forth thing that I had never seen before, and that will always just be like etched into my brain because I was talking about it when I was doing my New Vegas playthrough. It's just like, holy crap! You couldn't make them worse.
They do, you know? They do some cool things in Fallout 4.
I recently in my series got to have a fist fight with a Deathclaw. And it was very fun. It threw me around all over the place.
Oh, the no weapon thing? You're still doing that one?
Yeah, power armor only.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Power armor only. My God. I mean, I'll admit, like they did come up with some new and different creatures. Like what is it? The blood bugs and stuff.
Yeah.
Like those creeped me out whenever I first started playing, especially whenever like they have this really good animation where it jabs its freaking nose into your chest or something. I was like,
yes.
Yeah.
A lot of those are really like there's a lot of those in Fallout 4 that I appreciate every single time. Any of the like first person based animations that happen are like definitely keep going in that direction because it's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff they did with mole rats and rad scorpions making them burrow as well. Like, I hate it, but I love it.
When it works. When it works. Because like, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, the burrowing thing is like, oh, that's really cool. That's amazing. And other times it's just like, come on, man, I'm sick of playing whack-a-mole here.
Get out of the ground.
Just because I got a good shot in on you doesn't mean you should be able to freaking hide. All right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm over here. I can't hide from you, okay? Sure, I cheesed the ever-living bejesus out of the Deathclaw just 5 minutes ago, but you're another story.
Yeah. But there's numerous... They talked about it a tiny bit, but there's like numerous variants of each type of enemy in Fallout 4, which was really a highlight for me as well.
Mm-hmm. I will refute the idea of ghouls, though. The ghouls in Fallout 3 in New Vegas were way creepier to me, and I think a lot of that came down to the thumping running noise that they had. The bear skin against concrete. Yes, there was something
flap.
Yeah, there was something freakish about that. I remember going through the Dunwich building several different times in Fallout 3. Still one of the better unexpected horror experiences in the game.
Yeah, definitely.
And like Fallout 3, because of the way that the dungeon design was such an integral part of just like getting around the world in general, I was sneaking everywhere. And I loved using like the stealth boy to like plant grenades on people. It was a whole lot of fun. But I remember going through that Dunwich building and being scared beyond belief, just like thump 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 thump. It's like,
Yeah. I think the main criticism with this point is the word scary. Or possibly creepy as well.
Probably.
Yeah. There's
a lot of arguably better designs in some aspects, but specifically scary and creepy. I mean, especially Fallout 4 just being a visually brighter game as well.
Yeah, it is. It's more like it's a different type of scared, I think. It's the I'm gonna die. It's it's the panic instead of the creep factor that like the Dunwich building, like your example will.
Yeah, it's more, oh crap, where can I run where they can't reach me because I know that will murder me. So
because like the Assaultrons in Fallout 4, that's panic. That's pure panic if they get into melee range. Because then you get the I think there's multiple animations where either they eviscerate you with their claw or they laser you point blank.
What about like the robots where if you kill them, like they go nuclear?
Oh, the sentry bots. Yeah,
sentry bot. I think Assaultrons will do it occasionally as well, but it's just like, oh man.
I think they all have an overload if you hit their power supply.
Is that what does
whatever
it?
The motivator thing is?
I don't know what it is, but like every single time it happens, I play the game and I'm like, I don't know what causes these bots to explode sometimes. And
Yeah, when they overheat and then just explode. Yeah. I think there's a way to hack them to do that too.
So I'm half on this one.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad point. It's somewhat arguable, but it's very much a personal opinion thing rather than a flat-out objective.
Yeah.
So, I'm cool enough with it.
Yep.
Caedo, why don't you take number 9?
Okay, number 9. Music. Diamond City Radio Bangers. Music is essential to immersion. Ah, there's my word.
Yep.
Buy my merch. Is that why you told me to read it?
Maybe.
Music is essential to immersion when playing any sort of game, especially an open world RPG where it's all about losing yourself in the world. Fallout 4 does this beautifully with the ambient music. The score is perfect for an eerie post-apocalyptic wasteland, and you'll never not feel the nerves when walking into a spooky-looking ruin. Additionally, the oldie but goodie style radio songs are just as captivating and unnerving as ever in this game. There's nothing like listening to some Betty Hutton when blasting bandits and deathclaws. You'll be listening to some Diamond Radio hits long after you finish the game. This was pretty cool that they mentioned both the radio and the ambient tracks.
You splitting your difference there. Oh, because I mean, we had a whole thing the last time I was on about like the fact that they wrote new tracks for Far Harbor, and I was like, oh, the music in Far Harbor is great. It makes the atmosphere so much better. Mm-hmm. And I can't argue with that. The ambient music is beautifully done. Einunzer is fantastic at his job. The radio part, I'm sorry, but I don't want to listen to the same tracks over and over that I heard in Fallout 3.
Yeah.
I mean, for actually the first time ever the other day, turned on the radio in Fallout 4.
Oh, and how many hours in were you?
1,500, something like that. Well, the thing is, I had Fallout 4. I first bought it when I first started my channel.
Yeah.
So it's always been YouTube adjacent, and copyright's a thing.
Something all three of us do at this point, just naturally, is turn off the radio in any instance that we can because we don't want to get, monetization shut off.
I don't want to get DMCA.
Copyright claim.
I also should add that one of my most controversial videos is something along the lines, I can't remember the exact title, I think it's called Fallout Sounds Terrible, and it's me critiquing the ambient music of the Fallout franchise as a whole, because I don't love it. And to be fair, the title is a bit of an exaggeration. I don't think it's actually terrible. I'm just not a big fan of it. We talked about Final Fantasy earlier, and my favourite game's Final Fantasy 9, and I think that did a real good job of different music for different areas.
Mm-hmm. And different theming through music, too,
yeah,
which is really good.
And there's a little bit of that in the Fallout games, but it tends to be just a few areas get really good music, and then for the bulk of the world, you get more of a generic wastelandy track, and I'm not big into the generic wastelandy tracks, is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'll definitely be with you on that. It's you basically have a handful of tracks, and there's not a whole lot of specialization from one area to the next. You get something else in, what is it, the Glowing Sea? I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
But
yep, that is correct.
You don't really get much of anything. It's you're either above ground, and it's morning, day, dusk, or night, and then you have the Glowing Sea, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, you've also got some dungeon tracks there. I mean, that was actually one of the big things that I really liked about Fallout New Vegas, where it was no, we actually got the original music from Fallout 1 and had it all completely redone, and it's playing in different unique situations. Vaults were a lot more creepy in Fallout New Vegas because of that music that they pulled from the Fallout 1 for it. So
yeah, I think that's a distinct benefit too, is that New Vegas, unlike Fallout 3, used a lot of the original tracks from the first two games, which were extremely atmospheric and bleak, compared to, or juxtaposed to the radio of New Vegas, which is much more country western type stuff.
I really like how they went through a lot of trouble to distinguish it thematically from Fallout 3. They it again, like we've said it so many times, Fallout New Vegas, it stands out for a reason. But something that I will never forget was when I was doing my playthrough for Fallout New Vegas on YouTube, was I played the game with zero music on because I was doing all of my mixing for it in post, to ensure that, you know, like you didn't get like these weird jumps and whatnot in the music whenever, you know, you edit through stuff. And one of my favorite things was figuring out where I was able to use this really, really well written music that wasn't used all that frequently. And going into the vaults was a whole lot of fun because I got to like figure out how to loop the vault music and make it effective at the most impactful times. One of the standout moments from my series was whenever I go and I just murder every last fiend in what is like Vault 11 or something. I forget the number for it.
Vault 3, I think.
But, you know, like I go in there with a chainsaw and I just go ham, just butchering fiends with a chainsaw.
Make them ham.
Yeah, it just and like I had so much fun doing it. And whenever I got to the point where I needed to edit that episode, because like I was just like, I was like manic whenever it happened. I was just like absolutely weirdly happy about like cutting people up was the way that I played it off. And I remember getting to the cutting board for it and I was like, how am I going to make this work? And then I remembered that they had that like really weird moment in Fallout 3 where you go on to like that like, you know, perfect suburbia mission.
Tranquility Lane.
Tranquility Lane, that was the name of it. So they had this, you know, like really upbeat, like Leave It to Beaver type of music playing in the background whenever you did that. And I was like, I'm gonna pull that music and I'm gonna play it in the background while I'm running around a vault and cutting up fiends. And people still come up there. People still show up, you know, like when I'm streaming, and they're like, "Oh God, that one moment was a freak. It was amazing. It was So
can I mention something about Tranquility Lane 2 that was really creative on Bethesda's part? That the passcode to access the terminal was also the theme that was playing.
It was?
Yes.
Explain. I don't understand how this.
The do that thing.
Yeah.
That's the passcode to access the terminal in Tranquility Lane to run the Chinese attack program or whatever to like wipe the whole thing. So you can either like work for Dr. Braun and do like horrible things to the people of Tranquility Lane, or you can just bypass the whole thing by activating the items in the abandoned house in the proper order, which is the theme to the song that's playing.
Oh my God! It's been so long. I completely forgot that that's what you had to do. You had to like activate the. Oh man!
It's very creative, and I enjoy that. That's like one of the options that you have for Tranquility Lane.
Oh man. I just remember constantly clicking on things and being like, okay, that was wrong. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
That was wrong. Let's do it again.
Yeah. I just thought that was cool. Anyway, back to the thing.
I think it's another subjective one because it's talking about music.
Yes.
Music's so subjective.
It is subjective, and also for first timers, it will have a lot more impact because they won't have that like previous experience with the Fallout 3 radio playing over and over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, subjective, like you said.
I agree with the ambient, not with the radio, and yeah, you can't get more subjective than that.
Yep.
Right. Number 8 is weapon modification. Build your dream weapon from scratch. One of the unique mechanics that Fallout 4 introduced is the weapon modification system. What makes Fallout 4 stand out in this area is the sheer customizability it brings. You can change the barrel, stock, scope, and all modular parts of a weapon. You could, in fact, go so far as to turn a pistol into a rifle, into a shotgun, into a sniper rifle. The The weapon modding capabilities of this game are sure to accommodate any gun build you could potentially have in mind. I'm so annoyed I messed up one word.
Yay, none of us can read.
Yeah, it's also factually untrue, so, fun times.
What? Whoa, what part do you think is factually untrue?
You cannot turn a pistol into a rifle into a shotgun.
Yes, you can. They're talking about laser rifles / laser guns. The grip changes pistol rifle. The shotgun is the laser beam splitter, and the sniper rifle is the barrel.
Yes.
So,
But ballistic weapons you can't do that with.
Yeah, it's like you can do it just with the laser gun, maybe kind of with the plasma as well, but yeah, that you can technically do that.
I'm reading this and I'm like, man, if I was able to turn my shotgun into a sniper rifle, I would have known that.
Yeah. No, you can't do it with you can't just put a scope on the double barrel and make it super long range.
And that's exactly what I'm thinking about. I'm like, man, I had so much shotgun ammo. If I could have slapped a sniper rifle, a scope onto that and a longer barrel, yeah, sure, I'll snipe you from 100 yards with a bit of buckshot.
Yeah, I think a few episodes ago, we talked a lot about the weapon modification system. I do think overall it's a good system, or at least a good start to a system.
Yes.
Because one of the big problems is, scroll down to the bottom of the list, that's the best stuff, just almost all gain, barely any negative to it. Mm-hmm. You're always just going to be wanting better and better rather than trade-offs and specialities.
Especially if you're not super into the settlement system and all of the resource management. It's like, man, I don't want to spend my precious resources that I've actually bothered to collect on this upgrade when I know there's going to be a better one down the road or something. Yeah. So
I do that all the time.
It's just like, oh yeah, I know I keep dying, man. I should probably upgrade this thing and get a better magazine or a longer barrel on it or whatever.
But just 2 more levels till the next rank of gun nut.
Exactly.
I can't possibly.
Yeah. So this one, it does have some viability, right? As an entry, because I don't know of many other games that go this in depth with weapon modifications.
I mean, honestly, I don't know many open world games that give you this level of modification to your weapons.
Yeah.
I don't play that many games though, so.
Oh.
No, I've played plenty of open world games that do a little bit of it, but it tends to be pick your scope. Do you want a big magazine or small magazine?
Yeah.
There's a couple of them. Fallout 4 does a bit more, which is nice.
I think there's only 2 that come to mind. One of them is one that you and I have played before, Will. The other one is Biomutant, which had a insane weapon modification system. It was probably the best system in that entire game, that you could take any handle, mix it with any blade or head or anything like that, and do a little extra additions to it to modify how that weapon performs. But it was so incredibly broad that you could have some very Ratchet and Clank kind of weapons by the end.
Okay, what was the other game then?
Dying Light 2.
Dying Light 2. Yes.
I think there's three modification slots for melee weapons.
Yes, there are.
So you can take a melee weapon, craft it, but you can also modify it with different elemental boost type thingies, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me into the Dying Light 2 thing. There's so much to it. I mean, I put my guide out for it, and I'm done with that game.
Yep.
So
yeah, I understand.
Well, in which case, to bring it back, I think this is actually the first solid one on the list. We can agree is, it's right.
Yeah, it is
It's
mostly
got a good
right.
weapon mod system.
Yep,
mostly right. They like that.
I feel a lot of our points on how it could be better that have been said on the past are here's how it could be better, but also it's things that no other game has done as well. So
one thing that I really like about the weapon modding system in Fallout 4, and this is purely birthed out of the fact that I try to avoid the settlement system. It's a unique constraint that kind of makes the game a little bit more fun. It's like, okay, this is the gun that I have chosen, and every single time I find a new gun with a new type of the same style of gun but it's got a new attachment to it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I gotta take this back to a bench and put a basic one on it so I can get the freaking part off it, because I'm not. Yeah, like
I hope they make that better. By the way, I hope you can just like, I want to dismantle this and take all the parts.
yeah. But it's like, as it exists, it's like that is an unexpected like little game that I end up playing as a cast off of just not wanting to bother with the crafting system too much. And it's like, dude, this is like a strangely new type of loot chest for me that I never expected to encounter. So
it also does a good job of making even like basic enemy weapons worth taking at least a glance at.
Yeah. Oh man.
Because you can get a good look. You're up next, Will.
Okay, so 7. Voice acting. Feel like you're in a movie. Fallout 4 got a lot of fans riled up with a voiced protagonist. According to the more critical fans, the protagonist being voiced hurt the immersion of the self-insert character.
There's the word again. Sorry.
While the jury is still out on if it was a good decision, many fans and critics consider the voice acting itself superb. The line deliveries, emotion, and the natural feel of the voice acting for characters like Father, Kellogg, and Piper are all incredible. The dialogue with Fallout 4 has always been a point of debate, but the drama and the diversity of those lines regarding the content... regardless of content, is absolutely praiseworthy.
Yeah.
So I am going to reference someone who I followed on Twitter for a long time, named Gavin, also known as Miracle of Sound, one of those YouTubers who composes music based on the video games that they play.
I am familiar with this man.
When this game came out, Gavin was talking about how bizarre it was, because of all of the audio work that he does, that there would be these radical changes in quality of recording for so many characters, you know? And like there, and it was something very specifically clearly noticeable in the dialogue and stuff. So like, this isn't really super compelling towards the actual acting component of the game, but it's for some reason it scratched my mind, and I have to bring it up. So,
okay. But most people aren't audiophiles, so
most people are not audiophiles. Most people don't have the setup that Gavin probably has. So
that's true.
I mean, I will and will not agree with this. You know, like the voice acting in this is like head and shoulders above like what Oblivion was, where they had like 6 people voicing everything in the game.
Oh yeah,
way back years
by
ago,
far.
Where it's like you're talking to a beggar who will suddenly change to a regal sound. You know,
it happens so much. It's so fun.
It really does. It really does. The part where someone, like, they left in an entire blooper at some point.
Yeah. The one who did the high elf voice. Her one of her accidental voice lines were left in. It's funny. She also like a legend.
She voiced Magnolia. She also played Wonder Woman.
Oh, what's her face? Yeah.
Yeah. What's her face?
Wait.
Yep. I'm so annoyed I can't remember her name.
I don't know if that's accurate.
Linda Carter.
Linda Carter did not play that high elf voice. I strongly doubt.
I'm gonna have to fact check it now.
Because is Linda Carter British? Because I watched the stream recently with the cast, and she was definitely British and not dark-haired.
Lynda Carter. So
yeah, no, Linda Carter is in Fallout 4, yes, but she did not voice the legendary accidental high elf line in Oblivion.
Wait.
We're doing our research.
like I am checking this because I could swear.
There is mentioned a Linda Kenyon or Canyon. I'm looking through. I just found a thing which is like on the actual like wiki. People being like, anyone know who voices the female elves? And it's like, I came to the wiki for information, and yet there's people here just being like, I don't know what's going on.
That's just it. Like I've read it time and time again in the past. I could swear. Wouldn't be the first time for me to screw something up, but this is one that I've known for so long. I got my stuff mixed up again. What do you know? Jeez.
She was...
I know that she voices, like, Azura in Skyrim, but...
She voiced female Nords. Linda Carter did.
Getting stuff mixed up so easily. I cannot believe myself.
Female Nords and
we're
female
2 for 2
Orsimer
on this now.
in...
I cannot believe that this happened the last time that I was on here. And
okay,
it was
but
with
there's...
the person that voiced the main protagonist out of freaking Dying Light 2.
There's a degree of accuracy, though, with what you said this time, because Linda Carter did voice in Elder Scrolls 3, 4, and 5. But she was not High Elves. Instead, she was Nords and Orcs. So
turns out she was also married to Robert Altman.
Who's that?
Who was the co-founder, CEO of ZeniMax, who passed away recently.
Oh,
yeah, that's how...
Which I didn't know.
Neither did I. But yeah, that's how she ended up with the roles in the game.
That connects the dots, yeah, for sure.
How else do you think Wonder Woman ended up part of the voice cast?
Yes. But Magnolia was, going back to the thing, Magnolia was a pretty cool character to begin with, especially when you find out her little twist.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. Like, I never found it out on my own. Somebody, like, tweeted it at me and was like, it's not really a spoiler, it's just a thing. Like, oh my god, you're kidding me? I can't believe it. Like, I was done with the game at that point, so it didn't matter to me. But
yeah,
I was just like, wow, that mug of mine is really living up to its name. You'd have to come to my streams to understand that one.
Yes.
I'd say that the voice acting in Fallout 4 is pretty good. Like, the writing leaves something to be the writing leaves something to be desired, but I can't fault the voice acting in the game.
The like we'll probably never again get the delivery of sarcasm from the protagonist in any Bethesda game in the future.
Yeah.
So, and that was fun. That was so much fun.
God willing, we'll never have that level of sarcasm. We'll never have any sarcasm from the main character again, because the main character will never be voiced again. I'm sorry. I'm just very clear on what I want out of the game.
It was very funny and enjoyable, like, doing sarcastic dialogue the whole time, though. And the drunk dialogue skips, that is a mechanic that not many people know about, is if your character has drank alcohol and then you skip dialogue, they will say drunk things to skip the dialogue.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did not know. I'm going to have to try that the next time I play it again.
And it's amazing. And also, like, choosing a direction like you would in the dialogue thing that also chooses, like, their attitude when they skip dialogue too. There's a lot more to it that the game just doesn't tell you, but just with dialogue skipping. But also, I always use the like climax of the Brotherhood and Dan's and Maxon dynamic. Like when you meet outside of that bunker after you find out Dan's is not who he thinks he is, kind of thing. I'm trying not to spoil it, but it's not really a spoiler.
I mean, it's only been 7 years.
It's been
I feel
7
like
years.
People are still looking for this info.
But there are new players too, and I don't want to alienate them. That was like the peak of how the characters acted and how it was kind of written to like reflect those characters, both with the confusion and the Brotherhood of Steel ideals. Like, it all seemed to work really, really well. It did feel like I was in a movie. I was just there as like the person standing by being like, okay, I don't want to kill anyone. I really like you both.
Alright, well, seeing as you like companions so much, why don't you read the next one?
Okay. Oh no. Okay. I just saw Piper. Number 6, companions, friends to watch your back. Lots of open world games give you the option to have followers of some sort, whether they are more of resources or characters themselves. They always add a feeling of camaraderie to the game. Few games do this better than Fallout 4, even to this day, with memorable characters like Piper, Nick Valentine, Kate, and the eternal meme Preston Garvey. Fallout 4 gives you tons of exciting and unique characters. Each and every one of these characters has their own struggles, lives, and interests as well, which makes them even more remarkable. add to that the fact that you can have companions ranging from a robot to a human to a dog, and you've got quite the selection for companions.
Oh, okay.
I like building robots. Screw people.
What was the title of this? 10 things Fallout 4 does better than other open world
this
games.
This one is quite a stretch, I think. This one's a
Okay.
bit, because
Listen, the fact of the matter is that you cannot beat Danny Trejo as Raul the Ghoul. Okay? I will die on that hill. Like, I remember telling Raul to leave my companionship in New Vegas, and he had a reaction of saying, fine, I'll go back to my mountain and live with my tools and, nothing else. But the way he delivered it broke my heart. I was just trying to move on to, like, I don't know, Boone at that point, who's basically like talking to a brick wall. But
yeah,
just, it's like
emotionally stunted sniper man.
yeah, and it's like the story from Veronica. Oh my god, Veronica's story, and the way that they extend that with the DLC if you're like working on connecting the dots.
Yeah,
and
Christine
stuff.
too.
Yeah,
Like,
so it's just no game has had better companions than New Vegas. The closest that I have ever reached is
That's a strong stance.
that's a
To
strong.
go with no game has had better companions than, and you can put any game in there, and
well,
you're gonna have people
yeah.
angry at you.
Anybody can get angry at me. I haven't
no
played every
video
last
game in the history of video games.
I haven't played all games in history of video games, so it has to be limited to what I've played. Like, the closest I've ever gotten is Outer Worlds,
Yeah,
and
then that's got some pretty lovable characters, but
I don't think that even comes close to what New Vegas did with their characters.
when it talks about like combat effectiveness too, I don't know. I'm kind of a 50-50 on either one, because I ranted about dog meat and how much I hate dog meat in Fallout 4. So
I'm there with you.
yeah.
Oh wow.
Yep.
I'm here
You're
with two
outnumbered,
wrong
Sarge.
people. Wow.
Two wrong people. Yes. Okay.
Hey, dog meat's a dog. He's instantly a good boy, and I will hear nothing of the sort.
I think I found the dog person in the room.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, Will, sorry to cut you off, Sarge. Out of curiosity, have you played Mass Effect?
I have played Mass Effect 1 and 2. I never got around to playing 3.
And what do you think about those companions?
Good.
Good.
Like,
Not
the
as
ones
not
that
as good as New
cared-
Vegas.
The only companion that really stuck out to me was Garrus, and only because he was like your drinking buddy by the end of the second
Garrus
game.
is best boy. Yes.
Yeah, so it's like, I can't argue with that, and I'm not saying that like the companions in that game weren't good and valuable. Oh wait, there was Tali as well.
Mm-hmm.
God, they had really good companions. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll admit that, but it's really difficult for me to compare it because it's so much more of a linear game, the Mass Effect franchise.
Yeah.
And I suppose, like, now I've said the controversial thing up front, like I'm qualifying it afterwards. It's just like, I don't know, man. It's hard for me to sit here and compare Fallout to Mass Effect, because like you're basically going into big corridor simulators in Mass Effect, as opposed to this big open where it's like, yeah, you want to go north, go north. You want to go south, go south. But Mass Effect is good. It has its place, and I do remember many of the characters for good reasons. But at the same time, I've just played more Fallout.
But New Vegas is obviously better. I get it.
I think to bring it back to this point, I don't think the companions in Fallout 4 are bad. I think a lot of them are quite fun. I've had some, the odd connection with some of them, and there's cool stuff done there. But to say that it's something that Fallout 4 does better than other games isn't correct.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that.
Even on a subjective level, I doubt there's going to be many people who look at Fallout 4 as the best companions ever. I feel like other games are more likely to be shown first.
Yeah.
I think just from a mechanical perspective, like trying to strip the feelings out of it, it's really difficult to say that you're getting a better experience in a game that doesn't have the companion wheel. That companion wheel was so valuable. for managing companions in just a mechanical manner.
Yeah.
That being said, I agree with Sarge. There are some very interesting written companions in Fallout 4, and I enjoyed learning all of their stories. In fact, my favorite companion story is Preston Garvey, despite
Oh
the
my
fact
god,
that
I can't believe you said that.
Oh my god.
Preston Garvey is so annoying because he gives you quest after quest, but I wish he didn't, because God, I feel that guy's story once you get through it. It's like, my god.
No,
Yeah,
that's so crazy because I was waiting to bring up that exact thing.
Like the last time that I was playing Fallout 4 on my streams, I was like, I wish he didn't do this because I care about his story so much.
I want him to be in Fallout 5 just so he can have a redemption arc where he's not a quest board.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, like I'm out here like establishing the Minutemen out in this new area of like, you know, the wasteland or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if the quest giver role had been given to Sturges instead, people would love Preston.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If they had given the quest giver role to anybody else, people would be like, man, Preston is so cool. But instead, it's just another settlement needs your help.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on to number 5.
Wait!
Oh,
There's one thing
I'm trying to speed it up a tiny bit here.
I know, but there's a lot of... I'm going to edit a lot no matter what. There is one thing that the companions do in Fallout 4 that doesn't happen very often in other games, except for maybe Mass Effect, and that is that they do interject in conversations in Fallout 4 too, which makes them a lot more part of the world.
Yeah.
Which
That
I
is
really like in Fallout 4.
Yeah, the Outer Worlds did that too. That was really standoutish.
They did.
What was happening there.
They did. You're right.
Yeah.
And I think I only noticed it more because like I enjoyed the companion writing in that game better. So, and it's more recent.
It also lends, it lends a lot to multiple playthroughs as well. It helps change it up a bit, which is something I love.
Yep.
But we can't talk about it more. I've got to hurry us on.
We gotta move on.
Yep. Number 5, gunplay. As real as it can feel. While Fallout 4 was constantly criticised for being more of an action FPS than an open-world RPG, one thing is for sure. The game does what it does perfectly. That's way too vague a statement to say there. The gun combat in this game is impeccable. You will practically feel like you're shooting a real gun with fantastic recoil, aiming, and sound effects. As real as a sci-fi gun can be in some cases, of course. Unique weapons with special properties also add a lot to the combat and make the world feel lived in and real. Alright,
That's quite a jump right at the end, too.
I feel like the body of this text is just baiting us.
Yep.
It's like,
Here we
gunplay.
are.
Oh yeah, Fallout 4 does gunplay great. I was actually going to agree wholeheartedly with it from the title. I've played so many open world games trying to find a good FPS open world game, but there's really not many out there. And Fallout 4 arguably could be the best. And then they're like, it's perfect, isn't it? That's what we're agreeing to here. Oh.
That's not the right word.
I mean, I won't argue with the fact that it is definitely an improvement over previous entries. It's absolutely an improvement.
Yeah.
But it's not a first-person shooter. I just finished playing through Deathloop finally, and it's like, man, like, I know what a shooter is supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
The gun handling in Deathloop is fantastic. The gun handling in Fallout 4 is like, hey, fantastic. It no longer feels like you're aiming a cardboard box half the time.
The word I consistently use for it is it's solid.
Yeah, solid. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It's solid. And anytime that it's kind of failing on the solid arc, you have VATS. That was kind of the reason why they kept it in the game. Oh, man. But I will agree that, like, shooting a lot of the guns is a lot of fun, especially the more, like, sci-fi of the guns. You know, I still remember whenever I picked up that laser musket, and I just basically stuck to it for the rest of my first playthrough because I was like, this is just really freaking cool.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious if the writer of this article is showing their hand a little bit in that maybe Fallout 4 might have been their first.
I mean, not necessarily their first Fallout game, because I feel for this one, if you have played the previous games in the franchise, if anything, that would make you feel like Fallout 4 was even better on the gunplay side. Because the gunplay in the previous games was one lacking.
If the title of the article was better than other Fallout games,
yeah,
I would go along with that. But it makes me...
I think what this reveals is they've not played many FPS games in general,
maybe that's
Yeah.
more of what I was thinking. Yeah, that makes more sense.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Feels more like this is someone coming from like a simulation or an RPG background suddenly having control of an FPS, and it's just like, hey, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and even like the other things like Doom and Rage 2, like the other stuff that it has done, like
Oh, yeah.
it's still like you see the DNA there, but it feels so much better in those games.
There's a big difference between engineering a game from an RPG into an FPS and engineering an FPS into an RPG.
Yeah.
Big difference in feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it my turn now?
Yes.
Okay. 4. World building. A toxic wasteland full of memorable things. Many open world games throw you into a vast area with tons of side quests, collectibles, locations, and NPCs, and call it a day. While that's not necessarily bad, Fallout 4 does something a little more, and that is tonally consistent with world building. That is a weird way to parse that. The wasteland, while being a literal nuclear wasteland, is full of life. The factions, characters, and lore hidden in terminals and notes scattered around all make the world feel real. You can stroll inside of a random building looking for loot and find yourself entangled in a web of side quests about the wildest things several hours later. I mean, this is basically speaking to one of the strengths of Bethesda's game design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
World building.
It's world building. It's like I think one of the best ways that I ever saw it summed up with Skyrim was like a skeleton with their hand just inches away from a mead bottle, you know? It was like, it was one last drink, but you weren't able to get to it. And you see that so many times over. It's like the teddy bears in Fallout 4, you know?
Yeah.
The mannequins.
The mannequins.
The mannequins. They're used.
Caedo's got a bit of a thing with the mannequins.
I got a bit of a history. Got a bit of a bit. You could call it like a pseudo beef, but like the mannequins in Fallout 4 used both for theming and for environmental storytelling, which is really cool in my mind.
I don't have any bells ringing on that one.
I mean, I've got a couple of ones, but I feel like it's one of the ones where they're easy to pass by. But if you're particularly freaked out by mannequins or something of the sort, then you really notice them.
You'll pay extra close attention whenever they appear, and also see them doing things like a person would, and connecting that to the theme of what it means to be a person. Thank you, Sarge. Because he would have corrected me if I said human.
Yeah, I probably would have.
But that is part of the world building thing is goes along with like exploration and stuff like that. Like Bethesda's just really good at making those locations interesting, especially if you're looking for certain things or looking around a bit more than usual, not just looting.
I mean, they've done that in so many of their games. I like the scraps of paper, the small little environmental storytelling. That's one of the big reasons why I keep going back to Bethesda games, despite some of their overarching, weaknesses, if you will.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, it's that minute to minute. Like, I love going into the dungeons. I love finding the stuff. I love reading the little stories in there. Like,
yeah, I think with the stories and stuff, just as a side point, I will say I really like as well, but it's not constant, huge, massive blocks of text, which I've seen a lot of other RPGs do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like it's one of the reasons why I always invest in the hacking skill, despite its limited use in Fallout 4 or something like that. Because it's like, there are notes and scraps all over the place, and I want to read these stories, and they're so much fun. I mean, it's like one of the first things that you get that you can get in Fallout 4 is, you return to Sanctuary Hills, and there was a drug dealer there, and you get to read up about all the people that they were like selling to. And then you go down the road to the red rocket, and like underneath it, like there's a terminal up top saying like, "Hey, you cleaned up your gas station. This is an amazing job." And then you go underneath it, and it's like you find the like toxic dump that they put in a cave, and it's like that it's that little storytelling that I'm like, this is fantastic, man. And
Does such a great job of showing the darkness underlying the suburbia that was idolized in the pre-war sections.
I mean, it's like, oh yeah, they were able to get away with so much more. And it's like, that's because everybody was an alcoholic. Like, that's how they coped with it. You know, they kind of went through wars.
Yep. Yep. Lots of war.
But
that never changes.
War never changes. Anyways.
I think we can all solidly rate that a yes and just agree with that one.
Yep.
Yeah, it's straight up yes.
That's me then. Okay, number 3. I wrote down the order. Mods. When the game becomes a digital playground. The modding community has been. I'm sorry. Is this the bee from Bumblebee Tuna? Is that who that is with a gun?
It might be. It might be. Bee?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. The modding community has been putting out amazing content for more than a decade for a large variety of games. People transform. That was not phrased right. People transform, improve, and even reinvent games like it's nothing. That's not true. Fallout 4 has a giant library of fun, weird, and awesome mods itself. It also has mods across platforms, which is great for console players especially. The game welcoming mods of such variety is sure to add tons of replayability to it. Yeah.
I want to quickly complain about the sentence, it also has mods across platforms, which is great for console players especially, when Sony still doesn't do the modding, right?
I don't know.
They do?
Oh, they do now?
I'm pretty sure they do, but they have a limit.
Okay.
They have more limitations than Xbox.
I retract my problem with the statement then.
I mean,
I thought they were just clunkily trying to avoid saying Xbox as well, but no, if there's a bit of Sony modding, that's perfectly fair.
Yeah, Fallout 4 and Skyrim at least allow modding.
Really argue with the fact that Fallout 4 does a great job with its mods, but that's mostly because it's a Bethesda game.
Yeah.
Insofar as games with mods go, it's not that Fallout 4 doesn't have good mods, it's just that I don't know that it's the strongest entry in regards to mods. That's the best way for me to put it.
I mean, that's accurate.
It's like, no, but it does mods really well because it's a Bethesda game, and Bethesda games are known for their mods.
Yes.
But it's not the strongest Bethesda game for mods.
For Bethesda games, yeah. I mean, this is a Fallout article, but it's probably Skyrim.
It's like,
in fact, it's most likely Skyrim.
I think Morrowind is still the most modded game, even just in sheer number, maybe. I might be imagining number completely out of nowhere, but like, I'm certain that Skyrim has more mods than Fallout 4 because Skyrim has reached a meme level of just re-release and people continue to buy it and play it and mod it again and again and again.
Guess who got the anniversary upgrade a second time because he was trying to mod it on Steam and it still won't accept that it's anniversary now and some mods won't work.
Oh jeez.
So I was gonna try and get the because I have Fallout 4 quick loot on basically everything now except for Skyrim, and now I can't because it's anniversary edition, or because the mod is made for anniversary edition, but because I got the upgrade, it's not labeled as anniversary edition, so the mod treats it as special edition.
Oh, isn't that fantastic?
That's a side rant. Anyway.
I think the point has already been made perfectly that, like, yeah, it's good at modding, but that's because it's Bethesda game. You compare it to other Bethesda games and it might fall short, but you compare it to games that are larger or wider net and it seems really good. It greatly comes down to, like, community tools as well.
So, in that case, we have to contextualize it to the name of the article. Fallout 4 still does better than other open world games. All other Bethesda games are open world, so within that context,
I think it does better than most other open world games.
So this
but
is
there's
half
some
right.
which do better than it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of these are getting half points because
Yeah.
hey, this is a franchise.
I'm splitting hairs on your on your syntax here of your words.
Yeah.
So.
But I would say overall too, like this list has, except for the shooting thing where it was just like this is perfect, like the rest of these have actually been pretty decent for a list from the gamer.
Well, let's
wanna
not
put
count
that out.
ourselves out just yet. We've got 2 more to go.
We do.
Yep. And number 2 is survival mode for the hardcore gamers.
Yeah, gamers.
Looking for more of a challenge? Survival mode has got you covered. In this mode, you can't save the game willy-nilly, can't fast travel, take more damage, face more formidable foes, and much more. In a game about surviving the nuclear wasteland and making your way through tons of danger, it increases the immersion when you have to deal with tedious sounding problems, such as ammo weight and illness. You even have to eat food and drink water regularly. Of course, this is not for everyone, but if it is, it can elevate the experience to incredible heights.
Did you write this, Sarge?
I mean, it sounds like I wrote it. It really does.
I don't know what to make of the hardcore mode in Fallout 4. Like I like the idea that it was the product of basically an internal game jam from Bethesda and everything. I think that it's good and it has value. But at the same time, does it do it better than other games? I don't know, cuz I've never messed with the survival version in Skyrim.
I would
that they
say
built into it.
yes.
Yeah.
When it comes to
I
other
100%
open
will
world,
say yes.
yeah, other open world RPGs, yes.
Yeah. I'm big into my challenge runs and all that sort, and Fallout 4 Survival Mode stands above any other challenge difficulty mode that's built into any game I've played.
I suppose it is more substantial. This is just one of those things that I've never given a lot of thought to, because I've only run into 3 games that have done this. And it started with Fallout New Vegas. And I was, I didn't bother with it the first time that I played through that game, but every subsequent playthrough I was like, okay, cool, let's go ahead and do this. And then like a mod from one of the developers came out where it was like, okay, I've modified survival mode to be more interesting,
Yeah. I think the base New Vegas hardcore mode is not very good.
It's
It
more
really
of it's
doesn't
more of a
change
chore
much.
thing
Yeah.
than
Like-
anything.
Yeah, like I think I don't remember it being that big of a problem. I remember it like just adding to the game, but also like there's a lot of weird tedium things that you can put in a game that I'm just like, hey, this is cool,
Yeah.
It's like tons of people hate durability, but I'm like, hey, cool, durability, I like this.
I do too, actually.
So, I'm weird and I'm different in that way, and I've never messed with the survival mode in Skyrim before, So my experience is so limited. I'm like, I don't even know how to measure it. What I do know is that I kept on just like eating dirt over and over whenever I had survival mode on for Fallout 4. So
It really is. I mean, it says for the hardcore gamers, and it is true.
It's brutally difficult. Like there's no
Yeah.
exaggeration. If you go in, like you're gonna invest time on like being as cautious as possible, but maybe still dying and being set back maybe an hour or two. Like it's nuts.
how didn't it modify like fast travel to only work under certain circumstances or not at all?
Yeah, there's no fast travel. However, there are the vertibird grenades for the Brotherhood and the Institute teleporter, and both of those things work as like pseudo fast travels.
Okay. Because for some reason I thought that fast travel would work if you did it from like a station or from like settlement to settlement, but
Nope.
You have to wander about everywhere.
But one of the things that survival mode for Fallout 4 did that made some of the problems of higher difficulties better, that wasn't seen in previous Fallout games, was like calling it increased lethality instead of like sponging the heck out of enemies. Because all the previous games or most of the previous games that Bethesda put out in the 3D space, like if you increase the difficulty, it's enemies do more damage to you, they are spongy as heck, you take increased damage. Like that's usually
that's all
kind
it
of
is, and that's
kind
that
of
is
the
most
vibe.
that is
And
the
it's-
laziest scaling.
And it's terrible.
Yeah.
But in survival mode in Fallout 4, they said increase lethality instead. Like, you take a heck of a lot more damage, but enemies also take a lot of damage, and there is an adrenaline system where if you do risk not sleeping, which is not saving, your adrenaline will increase your damage output the more kills you get.
Yeah. So it like there's an actual tactical component to it.
Yes.
Which is why it's like I could tell that there was a whole lot from it whenever I played it, even though I figured out that I'm like, nah, I think this is a little bit too much for me. But I was like, no, it's clear that they gave some real thought to what they were doing with this. So,
and even making the player pay extra close attention to the environments that they're in too, for like possible beds to make note of, or like it does kind of force you to use settlements a little bit, at least for the sake of like just making little base camps that you can go back to.
I remember reading articles about people who got like really hard into it first whenever it came out, and someone was like, man, Hangman's Alley was like the
because that's the most centralized spot that is around basically everything else, or in the central location of the map.
There were people talking about like, Hangman. It's like I ignored it initially, and then I play it on hardcore mode, and I have to have it. So
it immediately became one of the most useful settlements in the game.
Yeah, it can completely change up how you play the game, because on the settlement system, the only settlements in the game which have power armor stations built in are Red Rocket and Sanctuary, way up in the top corner. And if you're on survival mode, you can't fast travel. So playing as a power armor character, you either go high into charisma so you can build your own power armor stations at settlements just where you please, or you have to pay attention to where power armor stations are in the game and which of those places are safe for you to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way. Holy moly.
Yeah.
I've had to think about it so much in my power armor character with low charisma.
Yeah, you have.
See, what I've never done with Fallout 4 that I still need to do is go in and make a character who runs power armor from the beginning. Because I found power armor annoying. When I first saw it, I was like, I don't want to have to keep track of power, and like I want to be sneaky. Power armor would never like play into sneaking. It's loud and clunky. and yeah, obviously it's like way down the line. I'm like, oh, okay, you built stealth into the power armor. That makes all the sense in the world. So, you know, I've yet to actually go back and actually make a character that's power armor centric. So
I'm going to link into our chat my stealth power armor survival build.
Okay, so I guess we're in agreement that the survival mode is pretty freaking good.
Yeah. I mean, even if you two disagreed with me, I just wouldn't.
No, you would have steamrolled us verbally anyway. But I agree.
I love it.
Survival mode is awesome in Fallout 4, and other open world RPGs especially like have yet to reach that level of care, especially so far post game. Like at post game launch,
I want it to start becoming more of a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, on to the last point.
All right, here we go. Atmosphere, a truly beautiful apocalypse. Fallout 4 is not a perfect game for sure. It has strengths and weaknesses like any other game. However, what Fallout 4 does, is create this incredibly unique, intriguing world and let you play around it. This person didn't know where to put commas. The characters, the music, the gameplay, and the weird little mysterious all combine to make you lose yourself in the world. You'll only realize how much time has passed when you finish one last side quest and the sun is already up. Don't worry, another settlement always needs your help.
Also, it's very easy for that to happen in survival mode.
Yes, especially if you can't find a bed.
Yeah. I'm going to Lexington today. 15 hours later.
Yes.
I think the atmosphere for Fallout 4 is very good overall. I will say,
not the best
my personal opinion is that for the Fallout games, I think Fallout 3 does atmosphere best.
Yeah. Yeah, like Fallout New Vegas has Fallout New Vegas has a really, really good, like, I feel like I'm in the desert. Like, they did really great with the music and everything in that regard. But Fallout 4 has, like, this air of just, like, depression, basically. It's like, yeah, you're in the capital, a place that really got hit hard, you know?
Yeah.
Which really sets it up for just, like, being in a rubble pit where nothing has been really reconstructed, and anything that is in existence is really... It's been difficult to carve out what's available. So I think that Fallout 3 probably does have the best atmosphere in regards to the franchise. That being said, if we're taking this in, like, context to other RPGs as well, I don't...
Yeah.
I feel like it's a bit difficult to judge atmosphere between things that aren't, like... We can do it with, like, 3 New Vegas 4 because they're all the same world, so we can do a direct comparison. But judging the atmosphere of, like, a fantasy game or a sci-fi game compared to post-apocalypse is... It's a bit tricky.
And if we're talking about, like, specifically environmental atmosphere too, Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas were, like, extremely consistent, whereas Fallout 4's was varied and more like a grab bag.
Yeah, it's like there's color in Fallout 4. It's not all got the same, like, it's like there's a film filter put over all of New Vegas and all of Fallout 3. Like, just the color palette is very direct in one. Like, Fallout New Vegas is focusing on oranges, and Fallout 3 is focusing on a lot of greens. Fallout 4 is like, okay, we're gonna take a little bit of a step back, and we're gonna have more color in the world and everything. Like, that's cool, that's great and everything, but it's a less consistent.
It's hard to gauge.
Yeah, it's hard to gauge.
I feel as well they went a little bit subtle with it in some extent, and I want to compare this directly to 76 and its biomes, where they were very direct.
Are you in my brain?
Worked well. Yes, I am. Huh. I'm stealing your thoughts right now.
Meanwhile, I'm over here just thinking, like, I'm trying to dig up a game, any RPG that is quote-unquote open world. It probably doesn't count because it's not really true open world, but, like, when it comes to game atmosphere, like, just one of the few games that topped it really, really well for me was Bloodborne, you know? But that's not really a comparison. I'm just trying to think of a game where I'm like, I love the atmosphere.
Where it feels like it's dripping in atmosphere. Like, Metro, the Metro series is what came to my mind, because they do atmosphere very good as well. And Exodus is like the open world or at least open zone, like, third game in the series. I think even Stalker can be put in that, and Stalker is old.
I feel like this is another one where we're kind of on the fence.
Yeah.
It's like Fallout 4 does not do atmosphere the best, in my opinion. So I think like it does it okay, but I don't think it's as consistent with its theming.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I will say, even if we're saying no to this final point, overall this article has, by and large, been us positively agreeing with it.
Okay,
this one,
we're only half agreeing in a lot of points, but overall...
I want to bring up something. I want my money back. You guys told me these lists were things to just, take a big old dump on. And,
okay, the majority of them that we've covered, yes, that is true. But this one, apparently, we got lucky.
Yeah.
Of course. That's what happens whenever I come on.
Yeah.
You're a good luck charm, Will. That's what happened.
Oh,
yeah, it's clear this person has played Fallout 4, has enjoyed it, and just wanted to talk about why they enjoyed it, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, we got to talk a lot about Fallout 4. That's all that really matters, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean that's all. I mean, if you're a Fallout fan, that's all you get to talk about these days, unless you still play 76.
I mean, we could still talk about 76 also.
I mean, do you guys play 76 at all these days?
No.
I hopped in when Eric told me that the tower was available, and then I got it and put it in my camp and then left.
In my defense, I played possibly the most hours of 76 out of any Fallout game, so I'm fairly burnt out on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, okay then. What I know, I think I saw a tweet recently about somebody, it may have been IGN, who's doing some sort of, like, oh, we're taking a look at the community of Fallout 76 because this thing was a disaster when it came out and it's still going. And it's actually quite an interesting thing now, So, like, I saw that and I was like...
I think there's a couple of aspects which work really well for that, which is the camp builders. Like, camp building's quite a big community there.
Mm-hmm.
And the other half is just an overall very friendly community. There's always, like, a few people here and there who are trying to grief or whatever, but by and large, people are very generous and kind, and if they see a new player, they just give them stuff, and...
Yeah,
it's
almost,
one of those
almost to a fault, by the way, because, like, they don't have much carry weight, but you could, like... People dump a lot of things on new players.
I mean, I guess that's a really good example of what can happen whenever you have a game that survives a disaster like that. Because FF14 was the same. FF14 was released in just an absolute shamble mess the first time that it was released, and then when they re-released it, like, my understanding is that they've got an incredibly friendly community now, where it's just like all of these. Like, even whenever there was the World of Warcraft exodus and people were moving from World of Warcraft to FF14, people were, like, I remember one of the big things on social media was, oh my god, you mean you can have a nice community in an MMO where you're not toxic to each other?
What?
Type of thing? Yeah, so, and it was blowing people's minds where they were like, I can't believe this. People, like, random people are being nice to me in an MMO, So, like, I guess that might just be a knock-on effect of, like, yeah, the game totally crashed hard, and then it still managed to survive somehow, and the people that hung on are people who really care, and they're not going to be terrible to one another.
I think some of the people, like, especially the passionate ones that do, like, a lot of the camp building and stuff like that, and focus on that and helping players, I think they know at this point that they're kind of the lifeblood of the game. So there may be some also extra motivation there to, like, have more people join to make their experience as good as possible so they do keep coming back.
A little bit of the sunk cost fallacy.
A little bit of that, but also if they do truly still enjoy the game.
Yeah, that is true as well. I suppose I suppose including the word fallacy was not entirely accurate in this situation.
Yeah, but also there is such a thing as those who dump money into the Atom Shop where they probably shouldn't. Because I still hate microtransactions, and I'm waiting till that moment, because they really should make it free to play if they're going that route, which lessens the blow a little bit. But at this point, it's still a game that you have to pay up front for, and also microtransactions, also game-changing ones. So,
well,
that's a different rant for a different time.
Yeah, and it's like,
because the community is great, and I don't want to detract from that.
We've also been going for like 3 hours now, so
yes.
I don't know how much you're going to edit this down, Caedo, but, like, you have quite a bit of work in front of you.
How
already.
tired are you, Will?
How tired am I? It's 5 o'clock in the morning, and I have a stream at noon, and I haven't slept.
Oh, okay. So let's get through the what are we playing and working on really quick then. How about that?
Who's going first?
I'll go last, so you guys can cut me off if I go too long.
Perfect. All right, Will, you're up.
Okay. I am currently. You can catch me on Twitch. I stream every Saturday and Monday. If you just go ahead and hop over to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/WilliamStrife, you can find my stream schedule and everything there. So that's a wonderful normal thing. But something else that I'm currently working on is a December series for my YouTube channel. It is going to be Minecraft, and which is a thing that I kind of do once a year. I'm like, okay, I can't do Minecraft all the time, but I will return to it whenever the CPM rates go through the roof, and I will put out a whole bunch of it during 1 month.
Yay,
so,
money.
What would normally be, like an episode a week scenario is going to be like 3 episodes a week scenario, and we'll see how many people actually bother with being able to see it because of how much subscription boxes aren't shown to people anymore, and
Yes.
you know, it gets lost in the flood of everybody else doing the same thing. But that's what I'm up to. Soon, December series, hopefully I'll be able to get out something related to Deathloop, which I just recently finished. So
Yeah, Deathloop's fun.
Cool.
and my wonderful streams that I'm always doing. So
Yes,
Nice.
they are wonderful. Can confirm.
thank you.
Sarge?
Alright, daily content on my channel now that I'm no longer ill again. It's back to the daily
Yay.
uploads.
Daily
But while I was ill,
uploads.
yeah,
My
I've got
word,
good internet now,
man.
and I like working.
He's a madman. He's crazy.
But while I was ill, I tried out Dragon Age Inquisition, which I started to love and then absolutely hated. It's an open world that is an open world. There's constantly a mountain blocking your path. You have to walk down this one exact path. I'm so angry with it. I've given up only a couple of missions from the end just because I can't deal with it anymore. No need to talk about it further. I also tried out Mortal Shell, which is like Dark Souls if Dark Souls was a lot worse. Given up on that too. I'm now trying out Recore, which is a game I saw Caedo play a while back, and it seems fun so far.
Yep.
Let's see how long till I give up on it. On to you, Caedo.
I'm glad you mentioned, like, that was one of the ones that I was going to add to the Fallout games for Fallout fans, but ended up not because of just the ridiculous amount of game-breaking bugs I ran into later.
Oh.
So, good luck.
Oh, you're ruining it for him already.
I'm
It's
sorry,
ahead of time.
Sarge. It's in third person. It'll lose. You'll lose interest for after a while.
It's fine. Just let's move on.
That's okay. Okay, so I've been playing Angry Cyberpunk. It's like Cyberpunk, but I'm an angry person when it comes to talking about and playing Cyberpunk. So I made it my mission to play through Cyberpunk again as a nomad, which made some things make less sense because narratively you're supposed to be a street kid. I don't know why they went with the whole life path thing, but you're supposed to be a street kid. That's what the intro thing assumes. Anyway, that aside, so what I've been trying to do is prove to myself and maybe to other people, gathering clips of all of the bugs that I'm running into when supposedly the game works now, quote unquote. So that's what I've been doing. I've still been enjoying certain aspects of the game, not the bugs per se, but the shooting and combat still feels fairly good. The shooting especially, like they did guns pretty well in that game. Melee needs a little tweaking. Needs wall running, of course, right, Sarge?
Yes.
The characters, I romance River. I never got to do that in previous playthroughs. He becomes kind of a cardboard cutout after the fact. I would say that it's different from any other character, but it's really not. He just has a few dialogue lines after you're together with him, and then that's basically it. They just become like this this background character and kind of fade away until maybe the end, where you can like call them or they call you or something. But I angrily playing Cyberpunk, but that's not the only thing I did. I got drunk, made some nachos, not in that order. I made some nachos, got drunk with my partner, and also we watched Shrek the Musical. And this is not gaming related at all, but we were prepared to just rip into Shrek the Musical when we saw it on Netflix. But I was thoroughly entertained the entire time. No joke. Watch Shrek the Musical. It's amazing.
Okay, I just, you wanna throw something from left field? Cool. Oh, that's fantastic. I was very confused when I saw this on the sheet, but okay.
Farquaad steals the show because, keep in mind, Farquaad is half the size of a normal man. The way that they did that on stage was incredible.
Then.
Especially with the dance numbers and stuff like that. So also, I've been working on an Alien Statues guide for Oblivion. I'm just about done with it as we're recording, so Saturday, this weekend, it will be going up, hopefully, at noon or 10 a.m. So,
Okay, so
when
this is the important part. Caedo.
yes.
Did you check notes against my Iliad statue guide?
I didn't know you did one, but now I'm going to.
Oh,
It is one of the more lost guides that I ever did. Because nobody, like, it's such a hidden quest in the first place.
It's an unmarked. Well, the locations are unmarked, kind of like the Stones of Baron Zaya. So
Yeah. But I mean, for as strange as it is, most people don't find an Iliad statue and sell it. You know, despite the fact that like the first one is in a dungeon, like right across from where you start the game.
Yeah.
For some bizarre reason, most people never come across the mission. It's
okay.
crazy.
Also, mad props to the level designers of that first Iliad ruin right outside of.
That is a fantastic ruin.
It is so well made. It introduces so many things in dungeon delving just in that single dungeon. It's incredible.
I know, and it's like there's that whole environmental storytelling, like scraps of paper type stuff going on.
Yep.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunate that like it takes you forever to get out of the sewers, and once you're out of the sewers, you're like, I don't really want to be dungeon delving anymore, and you run off into the open world and you completely skip this dungeon. That's
that and also
you.
you can fast travel to literally any city in the game.
Yeah, they kind of addressed that in Skyrim, thank God. But
yeah, discover first. But yeah, so the Alien Statues Guide, I have had a really fun time like putting that one together. Did all the commentary yesterday. Have some kind of running jokes about the big old button on the floor right in front of the square doors that come down, as if there's any sort of puzzle related to those, and how those are safe and wonderful and comforting. And how many traps I definitely didn't step on as I was recording.
Oh my God,
that's a running gag as well.
I think one of my favorite things about Oblivion was like some mission where you go into a dungeon to try to save people, and someone runs up to you and he's like, I'm the only survivor, and also one other person who's like further in, come follow me, and they immediately run into like one of those, the entire floor raises into the ceiling traps.
Oh yeah.
The game just stops dead and shows you that journal up there. It's like, so and so has died, I'd better take care of the rest of it. I think I fell off my bed laughing whenever that happened.
Yep. They had a name and a history and everything, and they just got killed off immediately just to show you that's dangerous.
Yes.
So good. Speaking of danger, there's another game that scratches the tactical RPG itch for me, and has done an incredibly good job, but it's unfortunately so generically named that people will probably sleep on it. It's called King Arthur Knight's Tale. And it's by, I keep forgetting the name, but it's by some developers of more of the tactical style Warhammer 40k games. There's a pedigree there. They have a lot of experience, clearly, with making tactical turn-based RPGs. This is basically, in my mind, a dark fantasy XCOM 2. This is the closest like association I've been able to make, because like XCOM hasn't really come out with much in recent years and I really want it to, but it's just not happening. So I gave this game a shot, and you're playing the game as Mordred. You're rebuilding the Knights of the Round Table after basically the entire fall of Camelot, and you're rebuilding it in Avalon, and the corrupted, horrible big bad is actually King Arthur himself. So it flips the role a little bit. Your hero character is definitely a dirtbag. He's a horrible piece of garbage who hires other pieces of garbage and or great and legendary knights, depending on your morality, basically. And you have tactical battles fighting off variants of undead, because this is Avalon. This is kind of like, I don't know Arthurian legend very well, but this very much feels like an afterlife type of region. You have like entire like base management section where you're rebuilding Camelot. It's a mission to mission basis, and during the missions it plays a lot like Mutant Year Zero, where you're on a map and you have numerous encounters on that map. And then like various campsites and stuff like that where you can like rest up, like to recover health and stuff like that. It feels really good to play. Like at no point whatsoever did I feel like, oh, this is unfair, which is a hard balance to strike in a game like that, especially when they're constantly introducing new enemy types, which there is a variety also. Because you're fighting the Lost, which are basically undead. They have many different types of units.
All right, this is the point where I'm going to rush you now. We don't need a full
Sorry,
breakdown of the game.
You're
I'm going to have to
fighting a
call
lot
it
of different enemies. Sorry, I get excited. Okay, play
It does
King
look
Arthur.
interesting.
King Arthur Knight's
looks
Tale.
really good.
Yes.
Like visually,
check it
at
out.
least, it looks
Yeah.
good. Now, if
Yeah.
only I enjoyed XCOM.
Yes.
So can't play this type of game because I know that it's not my style.
Yeah.
Sadly.
But that's okay. That's okay. I will still gush about it.
I will throw one single game in to just to like promote it because like it's really
sure.
good and it's finally had its full release. Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors has come out in its full release. It is one of the better games that I have played this year. It's deceitfully simple yet incredibly amazing. Their 1.0 release has come out. It's out of early access. I feel like I stole it for $2, okay? And it's only $5 now. You can't go wrong on it. It's worth it. So
Okay.
I'll leave it on that.
I've barely looked at it because I can see like Gerard the Completionist, for example, geeked out about that game so incredibly hard. And I would like to consider him a game connoisseur. And I also know that if I were to jump into a game like that, I would not do anything else.
Have you ever played a game where the goal is so incredibly simple and it has pretty flashing lights in the process that you just kind of sit there for 3 hours?
Yep.
That's the type of game it is.
Yep.
And the longer you play it, the more you realize, oh my God, there's a lot to unlock. Oh my God, there's a lot of different strategies to go through. Oh my God. Oh my, and before you know it, you haven't done any of your work because you get the idea. So, if you haven't played it yet, give it a shot. If you don't have the time to play it, put it on your wish list so you don't forget about it because it's totally worth it.
Yeah. And same thing for the King Arthur game too, if tactile RPGs are your jam. So I would like to thank you, Will, for joining us for this extra long episode of the PIPCAST 3000.
Yeah, well, we kind of got onto that, like, 10 things Fallout 4 does better than other open world games, and I was like, should I interject and say, hey, we're kind of at a 2-hour mark already. Should we, is this a good idea? I didn't say anything.
It's mainly reliant on, you and your schedule as well as, how tired of me Sarge gets. So
it's all fine. I'm just like, oh man, I mean, how many people are listening at this point?
Yeah. For the whole two people that are still listening, thank you.
Yes. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me back. If you ever want to ask me back again, feel free.
I will.
Oh my. Okay. Well, on that note, I guess it's time for us to say goodbye.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Sarge, you didn't have any final things, did you?
Bye.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone. Have a safe next 2 weeks. We'll see you then in the next PIPCAST 3000. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to the PIPCAST episode 96. We will heat. Thank you.
I'm gonna leave that in. I'm just stopping it there.